Okay, ding dongs. If you don't subscribe to Jeremy Ice and Fire, you're gonna spend the night in the box.
Aunt Cooey.
We're running out of time and we still don't know the rules.
Everything here is impossible, but it's also real.
Saving those children is how we all go home.
There's something else here now. Something new.
Your wife shouldn't have dug that hole, Jim.
And welcome all to the From Season 4 finale discussion. And here it is, folks. The Season 4 finale has come. It has gone. Season 4 has played out in its entirety. There were ups, there were downs, and everything in between. But one thing is for sure, the discussions have been so fun surrounding Season 4, and you guys have been absolutely hilarious this year. The memes coming out of this season, I still can't speak highly enough of. Whether it's Fire Mitts, NPC Roger, Julie's wig, or any of the other numerous hilarious ones. This has been such a fun season to watch on top of everything else. But yeah, here we are, folks. We are back to dive into the finale a little bit more once again. And of course, we want to hear from you guys in the chat. What did you think of the finale? What did you think of Season 4 as a whole now that it is here in its entirety? And what are some of your biggest predictions and hopes heading into Season 5? PM, welcome. Season 4 has come and gone officially.
I know. I'm going to miss it so much. I really am. But you know what? I was thinking about it today, and we did get a lot of answers. We got things that are confirmed. So that's very exciting. I think when you first watch it, you're kind of like, or at least I get stuck on what's going on, like what I would have liked. So I put that aside, and I see now that we got a ton of answers. So
we got answers.
I'm still really excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing about the answers we got this season, and I saw someone mention this in the comment section yesterday, and I thought that's kind of a similar sentiment that I had. We definitely got answers. We got actually quite a lot of answers. I think maybe the reason why I didn't feel as profound as usual is because a lot of the answers were like heavily favored fan theories that ended up being right. Things that we kind of knew was going to happen that got confirmed. So yeah, I agree. I think we did get answers this season. For me, answers has never been the problem. Like whenever it comes to From, not enough answers, too much answers, whatever the case may be. I know that opinion very much varies. And of course, we definitely want answers. Nobody, it's not that we don't want answers. But I guess I don't hinge the whole show on getting answers or not. You guys know me. I really like the character-driven stuff sometimes a little bit more, following those kind of storylines. But this is a mystery show at the end of the day. You can't deny that. A huge portion of the fandom is heavily invested in these mysteries. So you got to give them answers, especially when you're getting down to the final 2 seasons. And like you said, we did. We definitely got some answers and some new information this season. Was it as much that I think the fandom was expecting? No, probably not. But we did get some stuff.
I mean, I feel like we got a major thing by knowing that there is a bargain or a game afoot,
Jade's
right? You're not
fate.
going to win.
Jade's
time,
fate,
right?
too. All of the Jade's fates. Another big answer.
Yeah, the talismans meaning something, that they're not just rocks, right?
Where they came from,
Um,
who built them.
exactly, right? The way that Sophia kind of moves about and the way that she operates. I think with Elgin, because we saw her do it with Clara, right? But with Elgin, seeing that she is relentless. When Sophia offers you a bargain,
Yeah.
it seems like she is not one of these entities like Lucifer or Satan, where they will make a bargain and you only have one chance to say yes or no, right? So you have to
Uh-huh.
decide. She was relentless. She's like, give me your
Mhm.
hands. Do you want to make this bargain? And she kind of harassed him and asked him over and over and tried to convince him. So she will ask you multiple times until she wears you down or until you agree. And if you don't agree, then she kills you.
Mhm.
At that point, you don't really have a choice. But seeing how she operates, I think that that lets me know that the parents were probably presented the same sort of bargain, where she
Mhm.
was
Yeah.
relentless about
Mhm.
this.
It does seem like this whole smaller bargains that we're getting from Sophia and some of these characters in town, it does feel like it's set up for something larger. And yeah, and maybe that is how we'll find out that this deal was presented to the parents, who brought it to them and why. Because the man in yellow wanted to make this deal in exchange for this sacrifice, in turn, you know, get this maybe energy, this power generated from a sacrifice like that is going to create immense power, I imagine, in a world like From. So yeah, maybe this was just the man in yellow's bargain. And I think that's what a lot of people are expecting up until this point. I mean, they have kind of come out and confirmed the man in yellow is the main antagonist of the show. So I think most people are probably expecting up until this point that the man in yellow will be the one that brought the parents the deal, even though we haven't technically like seen it yet and hasn't been confirmed. I think a lot of people are expecting it was the man in yellow. And I think sometimes the simplest answer is the right one. Some, in cases like this, and maybe it is. Maybe it is. But yeah, I think if nothing else, it presented some interesting things to theorize on going forward, heading into season 5. Especially the way the season ended. And I think it's been pretty interesting seeing some of the comments that have been coming in about the ending in particular, about how the season, the final shot of the season with Sophia dropping the talisman down the faraway tree. And some people really liked that ending, and some people didn't really like the cliffhanger nature of that ending. For me, like the way that episode ended, it felt like the ending of a great episode. It didn't feel like the ending of a finale, though. I guess sometimes the finales just have that feeling to them, and I don't know. For me, this finale just didn't really have that feeling. At least right there at the end for that final scene. But I do think at the very least, it revealed some very interesting things that, again, some of us have been talking about. A lot of you guys in the chat and in the fandom have been theorizing about, in terms of the man in yellow being on one side and the boy in white being on the other side. And now we got that direct confirmation that that is indeed the case. These cycles have been happening over and over again. And of course, the man in yellow wins over and over and over again. The boy in white has never won. If the boy in white wins once, that means the cycles are broken. So clearly, I think that by default shows that the boy in white has never won one of these cycles ever, most likely. But yeah, I think it does kind of put into perspective the kind of chess game that we were talking about, that a lot of people have been talking about, this chess game being played in the background, between these two players. And we at least got confirmation of that.
Yeah. I was thinking about that, and I mean, you guys think I'm crazy, but still, I'm not giving up on this. I think that the boy in white is Tabitha and Jade's child. I
Original
think that
son.
he is their son. Yeah.
Mhm.
Crazy or not, I think it makes sense. I think Victor told us outright. But when you think about the chess game, I think that they made it seem like boy in white is playing against men in yellow, but I don't think so. Because he said, "You're not gonna beat me." He was just general about this.
You're not going to
I
win
think
this time. Yeah.
mhm, very general. So I think that the game is the men in yellow against Tabitha and
And
Jade.
Jade. Yeah. I think the boy in
Mhm.
white's just a helper from afar, hoping
I
that the
think he's
Jade's
just their kid. Like he's just the original Victor. He's their
yeah.
child. He
Yeah.
tries to help.
A helper. Yeah.
He can't do much because he literally looks at Sophia and he looks scared. I know a lot of people read it like it was a friendly banter sort of thing, but he doesn't smile. Sophia smiles the entire time. She's like, "Hey, you got so big." But there's no smile in Boy and White. There is not a smile that tells you, "Oh, we're having fun. This is fun for
Well,
me
he's not
too."
having fun. He's had to lose over and over again, or at least watch Jade and Tabitha lose over and
Mhm.
over and over again. So I don't think I'd be fucking smiling either if I was the Boy and White. I'd be
I-
pissed. Like, this motherfucker keeps
No,
winning every time.
I think that he would still be more cheeky about it, more smiley,
Like the
because he
banter.
is closer. Yeah, he's
Okay.
closer to winning than ever before.
True.
So he could be like, you know what, this
Be a
time
little
I'm gonna
cocky.
beat you. He could be like with a smile or anything, but he doesn't. He looks scared. He
Yeah.
looks scared of Men in Yellow. Men in Yellow smiles, does most of the talking. I don't think it's again a game against Boy and White. I think the game is between Men in Yellow and the parents. So Jade and Tabitha, their task, their mission is, I'm going to give you an opportunity to come here and save the
Mhm.
children that you failed to save. And so that bargain was made and they keep failing, right? We know that the spirits or the souls of the people that died there are stuck there. I think that Boy and White, he's stuck there too. So he tries to help. He doesn't have that much power. He kind of knows what Victor knows, if you think about it. He knows about the trees, but who else is always talking about the trees? Victor. Who else is telling Julie, hey, I think that you could use this tree. We'll be safe here, right? Because he's talking to Boy and White, and Boy and White is telling him. So when you look at it that way, I think the game is really more Jade and Tabitha with Men in
Mhm.
Yellow, and Boy and White is there and has been there watching the game kind of by himself,
Mhm.
isolated for a long time. The Ankui children, they get to be together because they were part of the sacrifice. Every time you see an Ankui child, you see multiple. It's rarely that you see one. If there's one, there's usually the others that are behind or following.
Yeah.
When Tabitha first sees the Ankui child, this is what I think is exhibit A. Okay, if we start at the beginning, we go all the way to the end. When Tabitha first sees the Ankui children, what does she see? There's the game, and she sees the little girl holding the hand of a little boy. They can't really talk to her, but they just say Ankui, Ankui. But she sees the little pair and they're holding hands. And I think that that was their way of trying to remind her, you have a son and a daughter. Do you remember us? That's not necessarily the son, but it is a way of getting across the same idea.
Okay. Yeah, like a symbolic representation maybe of the
Hmm.
son and daughter, even if it's not exactly the son and daughter. No, I
Yeah.
think that's interesting. I think that's interesting. Yeah, I know. I think I think that last scene was interesting for me, and I think there is an aspect of the Man in Yellow versus all the Jades and Tabithas. But I kind of see the Jades and Tabithas more as the pieces on the board, just as the monsters are are the pieces on the board on the other side, and the Man in Yellow and the Boy in White are kind of are kind of directing this. Because I feel like the Boy in White, he's not just watching from afar; he has participated in previous cycles and actively tried to help. So I do think he is more firmly on their side. But it is Jade and Tabitha that have to do the work. It is directly them up against the Man in Yellow. So I do see that aspect as well, because they're the ones having to actually do this stuff. The Boy in White can help out if he wants as much as he can, which is very freaking limited, as we see. But at the end of the day, it has to be Jade and Tabitha that take this journey, not the Boy in White. So I do
Mhm.
like that perspective of it as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I think it firmly kind of draws the lines in the sand, I guess, if nothing else, at the end of this season, where it's kind of the two sides are kind of clear now. I mean, they've kind of always been clear. Monsters, Man in Yellow on one side, townsfolk, Jade and Tabitha, Boy in White on the other side. It's kind of always felt like that, but now it just feels
Mhm.
like we have that line definitively drawn. But yeah, what did you guys think? Let us know in the chat, not only about the finale, but the season as a whole. I know up until this point, we're getting a lot of comments, and I know it hasn't been everybody's favorite season, and I count myself among that as well. It's definitely not my favorite my favorite season. Out of all of the seasons, this is actually probably the one I like the least, just because I hold the first three seasons to such high esteem, such a high standard. because I feel like the writing and the storytelling and the acting is all just really phenomenal. And I think season 4 also has its moments. I like season 4, but when you have 4 different seasons, just by default, naturally there's always going to be one that you like the best and one that you like the least. That's just natural. And for me, it's season 1 is always going to be the best for me. I love season 1. And this one kind of was my least favorite. I still enjoyed watching it. It still had really good aspects. Some episodes I thought were really, really good. But some storylines I just didn't like as much as I have in previous seasons. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with liking certain aspects and disliking others. But yeah, and this is a comment we see a lot of people saying that there was a lot of kind of filler and the plot was kind of slow, and to a certain extent, it didn't advance the plot a ton, at least not as much as I thought. I did think by the time we got out of season 4, we would have had, a much better grasp as to like what's really, really, really going on. And I know to a certain extent we do, but again, a lot of the stuff we got in season 4 was stuff that we kind of already knew was coming, and it was only really just confirmed. But heavy fan theories that a lot of people kind of thought it was where it was going. But yeah, I understand that if the plot didn't progress as much as you guys would have liked, I definitely understand that. Again, we all have certain expectations heading into a season, and there's nothing wrong with that. Again, this show has set such a high bar during its first 3 seasons that there's a reason why we go into season 4 with such a high bar, because that's how we view the show. We view the show as really fun, really good storytelling, really good character-driven storytelling. And I think that's why we put really high standards on it. And there's nothing wrong with that because it's been a good show. But yeah, again, some of season 4 I really, really liked. Some of it I just didn't really like. And for me, I think a lot of it does go back to I was just really looking forward to seeing more from the Man in Yellow. I think the Man in Yellow, at the crux of the problem, just for me personally, season 4 suffered from a lack of Man in Yellow and maybe a little too much Sophia. And again, I think Sophia was good at times. So like there were some really good Sophia scenes, especially even in the finale. But I just feel like the Man in Yellow was a bit underutilized with how just good of a character that is, how striking, how unique and original, how menacing and scary he feels. I just feel like they could have maybe used that version of the character a little bit more and maybe evened out the screen time a little more between the Man in Yellow and Sophia instead of like super heavy Sophia. But I get it, with the storyline that they did with her going undercover, they kind of had to, which is, not one of my more favorite storylines.
Yeah, I mean, it's wrapped up, right? It is what it is. So could they have done things differently? Yeah, there's a list of things that they tried and they told us themselves, right? They
Yeah,
have done
absolutely.
interviews, Q&As, and they told us these are different things that we are trying. Some of them didn't work for us, some of them did. But
Yeah.
all of, once it's all said and done, the season is wrapped. I'm thinking, I mean, we might as well just go back and try to acquire all of the answers that they gave us and put the story together. I think
Yeah.
we got a lot of answers,
Mhm.
more than other seasons, really. So
Mhm.
I think that that's definitely a positive. Now, Pam Jam in the chat, I think, was talking about Patty. Did you guys know that Patty was supposed to die when she attempts to take her life? She actually was supposed to die in that scene, and they ended up changing that. Would
Mm.
you have liked it, or do you think it would have made a difference if she was successful at her attempt?
I do, yes.
Yeah.
I think it would have just, brought forth the gravity of Fromville and just, the toll mentally that this place can really take on someone. Yes, grabbing a gun and attempting to kill yourself definitely kind of, sends that message as well. But that visual of her like actually succeeding, yeah, again, I think maybe it would have changed the scene a little bit to a certain extent, made it a lot more intense, if nothing else. That would have been super fucking intense. And yeah, it would have shown like, this is what the consequences look like. This is what the gravity of the situation can lead to here in Fromville if you're not mentally prepared. So yeah, I think it could have changed the dynamic of the scene. What about you?
The reasoning, I mean, I think so, right? I don't want to be like a Patty hater, but I think
Mm,
that it would have added to the drama, right? Because you want to give us drama with Patty. I also think that it would have been more realistic that this is what happens when you take somebody that is clearly mentally unwell to a
mm,
high stress situation. This is the sort of thing that happens. And Boyd would have had to answer for that.
mhm,
We have that scene where when Boyd first comes out of the Ho Tien Cheng experience, Donna goes
mhm.
over to the sheriff's station and she screams at him,
Yeah.
like, what were you thinking? You cost us somebody's life, right? And then
Mhm,
she kind of backs off. But I thought this could have been another situation where Donna would have had the same thing to say. You're putting people's life at risk. You're making choices that are not benefiting the person, right? Because she's not mentally well. She shouldn't have been there. And
yeah.
it would have been more realistic that, yeah, she probably takes her life. It's too much, right?
Mhm.
I think that they should have left it how they wrote it. They
Yeah.
shouldn't have made that change. They
Yeah.
said that they thought it was going to be too much people
They
dying, too
watered it
much
down.
bloodbath. And
They
I
watered
don't feel like there was too much bloodbath.
This is
Not that
from.
Mariel is not important. I love Mariel. I
Mhm.
thought that she was really interesting. The
Yeah.
way that she had the ability to hear the voices of the souls that have died there. That
Mhm.
was really interesting. Elgin, a tragic story, but I didn't feel like there was a lot of death, and that was the reason why they didn't kill Patty.
Mhm. Yeah, I think, I don't think it would have been too much. I think at the end of the day, this is From. From has killed characters off in much crazier ways. I mean, look at how this show started. Look at what drove and got a lot of us hooked onto the show from the very beginning. It was during the first 5, 7 minutes of the very first episode, they were willing to do a scene like that where poor young Megan gets killed in this brutal way. And then not 5, 10 minutes later, we actually see the devastation with our own eyes when Boyd goes up into the bedroom and we see this poor child just on the floor in that awful kind of condition. That's what the show is not afraid of doing, or wasn't afraid of doing, at least in the beginning. So yeah, I don't think it would have been, again, it would have been an extremely shocking scene as Nicole Lane sees here, but I don't think it would have been a scene that the fandom couldn't handle. Look at all the stuff that this show has thrown at the fandom up until this point, and they've handled it incredibly well. So no, I don't think it would have been too much for the fandom. I think the fandom's mature enough that they would have been able to see what that scene was trying to convey, just the mental and psychological toll that this place takes on someone, where it can lead you to want to just check out if you're not mentally prepared for this place. So no, I think the fandom would have been able to handle that.
Yeah, I think they should have left that in. I think that they should have. Um, I know that I love Boyd. Okay, I really, really love Boyd. I like his character, but I know that some people in our chat were being critical of Boyd,
Uh-huh.
critical of the decision making, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
of covering up Tilly's death, covering up things that he probably shouldn't have. So I think
Mhm.
that this would have been another way of showing us. They told us Boyd is losing himself. He's kind of
Yeah.
falling apart here. And for
Yeah.
Boyd, falling apart is not going to be him not doing something. It's going to be more him becoming a dictator, because he's usually somebody that is about law and order. So for him, falling apart is doing things that are not ethical. This would have been another thing that could, you know, blow back in his face. Like, you chose Patty. Patty took her life. Patty was clearly not supposed to be there. And it could have created dissent, because the idea that they put into the storyline in this season was supposed to be that there is some sort of dissent. Boyd is kind of losing it, right? He's fragile. I would like to actually read the synopsis again to see if they completed the task that they told us they would, because
Mhm.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, and that was one thing that kind of did stand out. That synopsis we get at the very beginning when John Griffin had that interview. There was a lot of really interesting stuff in that interview that made us super excited for season 4. And yeah, I feel like they hit some of it, but not all of it. And honestly, I think this could have even played a part as well. And I know not everybody loves Jim, but as the title Guardian says here, I miss Jim in this season. Honestly, his absence made the show worse, in my opinion. And that's a very interesting kind of a perspective. I'd love to hear what the rest of you guys say as well. Did you miss Jim's absence this season at all? Like, did you notice Jim's absence this season? What did you guys think about Jim not being there this time? I noticed it. I'm right there with you, Taito. I noticed Jim's absence right away, and I felt his absence right away. Again, I've never really been like a Jim hater. I know he's not a super popular kind of character in the fandom, but I've always liked Jim. But I recognize his flaws. He is a flawed father. He's a flawed husband. He has, many kind of things that he does wrong, makes plenty of mistakes. But I've always loved, certain qualities about Jim, that family aspect of him, the thing, that thing inside of him that would do anything to protect his family, and Tabitha and Ethan and Julie. So yeah, I think Jim was a very integral part of the show. Again, this whole show is centered around the Matthews family, and we've heard the creators say that in the past. Yes, Harold Perrineau is the biggest actor on the show, and Boyd is the quote unquote lead role, but the story, the narrative is centered around the Matthews family and Jade. They are the central core characters, right from the creators' mouths themselves. So Jim was a huge part of that. He was part of the original cast. Season 1, first scene that we ever see from after poor Megan is Jim and everybody in the RV. So yeah, I'm with you, Taito. I definitely noticed Jim's absence this season, and I missed him a bit.
Hmm. Do you have that picture of the little bit of Jim that we got where it was like his ghost that came back to talk to Ethan?
Let me
Because
check
we got a little bit of Jim. Okay, we didn't get what we're used to.
one scene.
And I like Jim. Okay, I always liked Jim. I thought that he was going about what he was trying to do, his goal, the wrong way, right? He
Exactly.
was overly protective,
Yeah.
but I
Held
understood
on
that
way
it came
too
from a good place. Okay, he's not some monster. There are husbands that are monsters or abusive or whatever it is. He wasn't that bad. Okay, for my personal opinion, he was not like the worst ever. I didn't see him do anything other than be very overbearing, right? Very controlling. But it didn't cross that line where I would call it abuse or anything. A lot of people I know that they didn't like him. I did. I liked them. I missed them. I did. I did
Yeah.
miss them.
I did. I gotta say, I missed Jim. I noticed his absence not right away, but I think by the time I got to like episode like 3, 4, and from like that point on, I started to notice Jim's absence more and more and more as the show went on. And again, I think Ian Bailey, he was a huge part of this show, a main core character from the very beginning. And yeah, I thought his death was super tragic, thanks to our good pal here, the man in yellow himself. But yeah, no, I missed him. I noticed his absence. I missed Jim this season. I feel like I wondered what would the season have looked like if Jim was there. How different would it have been? There would have been some kind of other catalyst that started the whole show off if Jim didn't die. But yeah, I noticed his absence for sure. His absence made the show really depressing, and he wanted to get out. LOL. Yeah, from this perspective, I do miss him. So I guess maybe it's just a matter of perspective in terms of like how you see the character, maybe. But yeah, from that perspective, I do kind of miss him.
Mhm.
For sure.
I mean,
So
now
we're
that
not the only ones. Wow. Definitely felt Jim's absence. This proves again how important great actors are in a show, sometimes even more than the story. Absolutely. I mean, you can have the best writing in the world, but if you don't have good actors to bring that writing to life, then you don't have much. You got to have good actors. Absolutely. And another one, Howdy Helen. Yeah, I miss Jim's presence. Wow. Okay. All right. So we're not alone, PM. It's not just us. There are others that have missed Jim's presence. Okay. That's good.
Yeah, and the man in yellow is here, right, Doug? I have been wanting to talk to Doug, right? After everything wrapped up, because I did expect to see Doug closing the season,
That's what
right?
we
A lot
talked
of
about, how
us,
better that scene would have been if it would have been the man in yellow and the boy in white instead of Sophia there. Yeah.
Well, I think it was an expectation, right? Because when it comes to From, they kind of do a lot of repetition when it comes to the ending. There's a big thing that you could expect happening, right?
Uh-huh.
And since we didn't see him a lot of the time, I thought, well, maybe they'll switch, right? They'll switch Sophia
Yes.
to the Men in Yellow, and once again, it'll be like, oh, there he is again, closing the season
Yep.
like he did last season. So I have been wanting to talk to Doug to see how he feels about what he's hearing, right? That people really miss them and that people really want him to reclaim the role. Um, because that has to be difficult, right? You are, playing the role, but then again, Sophia's also amazing. But I'm sure that you have heard that people were kind of demanding to have Doug back and how that must feel. Like that was my question.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
when are you going to talk to us again, Doug? When are you going to come up here and answer some questions?
Mm. And I mean, and yeah, you are right. We've seen it just about all season. A lot of comments coming through, both on the live streams and just on the regular videos, of people just wanting to see more of the Man in Yellow. And again, if I had, that's probably my biggest criticism of season 4 is that I do believe the Man in Yellow version of the character was underutilized. But again, seeing how the storyline was playing out, seeing as they were doing this undercover storyline, you kind of had to have Sophia on screen for that amount of time, just based on where the writing was taking the story. But yeah, it did make me miss the Man in Yellow and make him feel like he was a little underutilized. But I suppose, as much as I wanted to see him more in season 4, it could also be a good thing in the long run, because that is what makes the Man in Yellow's character super intriguing, is that we haven't seen a ton of him. If we do start seeing a ton of him on every single scene, on every single episode, will it lose a little bit of its mystique, in a way? So I think, even though I really would have liked to get a lot more Man in Yellow in season 4, I'm hoping that heading into season 5, it's going to still have that same mystique kind of feeling, because we haven't seen a lot of him. And hopefully we do see a lot more of him in the 5th and final season. But yeah, more Man in Yellow was a huge comment that we were getting for many fans all season.
Yeah, they tried something new, right? So this is something that the creator has actually said in the interviews and the Q&A. This was something that they wanted to try, of having the audience be in on the fact that Sophia was the Men in Yellow in disguise, so that we wouldn't be clueless the entire time, where usually they don't give us a lot of information, which is something that we know. If you love From, then you know their way of operating. So they kind of tried this, and we were hanging out with Sophia a lot, which made it less scary when you saw her. Too much of a good thing can be bad, right? Not because the actress is bad, and this is never about the actors. The actors are amazing. It is the character.
The
The
character
character
just
of
wasn't
Sophia.
intimidating. It wasn't intimidating enough. No.
Well, she could have been if you saw her like the Boy in White or the Man in Yellow. You saw her briefly, and you couldn't quite put your finger on what is she up to, right? Even if we knew that she was the Man in Yellow in disguise, we would be on the screen looking for her. Is she in the background? Oh my God, what is she doing? Who is she talking to? What did she just do, right? So it felt like we were hanging out with Sophia a lot. Like it kind of turned into a little bit of the Sophia Men in Yellow show. And I didn't feel like I was hanging out with the humans, trying to see their battle against Sophia, as much as it was her messing with them. So, but some people really liked Sophia's character. They really liked being in on the joke, sort of, the information, knowing that every time she giggled, you knew why she was giggling. I myself didn't like it. I think it would have been interesting if we didn't know that she was the Man in Yellow, because then we could have slowly put it together, right? Add to the mystery.
Yeah, I think that could have been an interesting way to structure it, where if you're still doing this kind of undercover storyline, but you're not letting the audience in on the answer right away. Yeah, let us wonder, is Sophia really a new character? Is this something else? Let us kind of put that together as the season goes. Maybe it would have made that storyline maybe a little more intriguing, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, it's an interesting idea, if nothing else. But yeah, again, it's the Man in Yellow is just a really intriguing character that I think a lot of it has to do with season 3. I don't think a lot of it has to do with even Sophia really at this point. I think at the end of season 3, the way that they introduced the Man in Yellow, the way he just unceremoniously kills Jim in that incredibly intriguing scene, that was such a just awesome way to end a season. And I think it left a lot of us with like one question more than anything else. Who is this Man in Yellow? Where did he come from? What is his origin? What does he want? What's he going to do next? So I think when season 4 does eventually get around and they instantly change the Man in Yellow into Sophia, I don't think it's so much turning it into Sophia as much as it is that it's not the Man in Yellow. People wanted to see the Man in Yellow at the beginning of the season. They wanted to explore this character a little bit more. And we did. We definitely got to explore it. But I think this curveball that we got at the beginning of the season with this Sophia undercover storyline is just one that maybe some people just weren't expecting. But yeah, again, I think it was a good season. I don't think it was a great season. It wasn't my favorite season, but I definitely had some of my favorite moments. There were some really good episodes. There were some really, really good scenes in season 4. But yeah, overall, some storylines just, didn't speak to me as much as previous seasons. But I'll always love the show. I love this freaking show.
Yeah, I thought, to me it was really, really interesting that a show that didn't shy away from child sacrifice, which is the theme, right? This is the theme, after all, of the show. Killing Megan, being super gory. We had Colony House Massacre. We had Tien Cheng's death, which was horrifying. I mean, the way that Tien Cheng went was horrifying, right? So we've had some pretty hardcore deaths. It
Yeah.
was interesting that they shied away from Patty taking her life. I think it would have made it a little bit better because we would have had less questions. I still would have question as to why is she even there to begin with, how unnecessary that scene was, right? But it would have added to the idea that people really they would rather die. They just can't take it anymore.
Yeah.
It would have added that layer that some people, it's not even about them trying to fight to get out of here to look for answers. They literally just can't take one more day.
Yeah.
So I thought that
Mhm.
that was interesting. Something that the creators said, Jack Bender, about Sophia was that when it came to Sophia, she was playing the character subtly and underhanded, and that she did this very well. And I just was a little bit confused because I didn't find her acting to be subtle, right?
Mhm.
Like, we know that
Yeah.
she's the bad guy, so we were going to know that regardless. But when he said that she was playing cards very close to her vest, that she was very subtle about the way that she was going about it, I didn't find it subtle. I thought she was smirking and laughing in people's faces constantly. And this wasn't like, oh, they're looking away from me and then I'm smirking. It was her asking Boyd, hey, did this thing work with the talismans? And smiling. And Boyd is looking at you. So to me, I had to start questioning, like, Boyd, do you really not see that she's smiling and asking you all of these questions? It makes him look silly, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of Sophia's behavior, some of the way that she kind of was reacting to some of the things in Fromville, some of it lined up really well with a 16-year-old girl that just got stuck here and lost her father. But then there was all the other stuff that just didn't line up. That was a little like kind of made you think, how come more characters aren't recognizing that there's something a little off with her? And I think at one point, some of our characters were starting to a little bit. We got that one scene with Marielle and Christy when they were looking out of the diner window at Sophia. She was standing over at the pool. And Marielle was, wondering like why she's handling this so well. Either she's just super well adjusted and is handling this incredibly well, or it hasn't hit her yet. but at least they were noticing that something was off. She's handling this way too well for this to be normal. So I did start to wonder if we would see more characters start to notice it, but no, it seemed to just be that one little scene in isolation, and then it was never really mentioned again. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and again, maybe it's easier for the audience to say that because we knew who Sophia is. So we're going into the season having that perspective of, okay, we already know she's the villain. So I think her actions, just by that very nature, are going to look more sus because we know who she is. But if we didn't know who she is, I wonder how sus would we have seen some of her, how sus would we have perceived some of her kind of actions, I guess. Because having that in the back of your head, knowing who she is, it's always going to influence some small way in terms of like how you see the sus meter on her, I think. But yeah, she was sus. I thought more characters would recognize her. I thought for sure she'd get discovered by Sarah. Sarah was the one I was betting on. At the beginning of the season, when we first saw that Sophia was going to live with Sarah, I thought, okay, this is going to ultimately be her downfall. She's going to spend so much time with Sarah, and Sarah's eventually going to start to notice something's really off with her. I thought Sarah was going to be the one.
Well, I mean, that didn't go anywhere, right? Them living together didn't really affect anything because Sarah was not home conveniently when she did this whole thing with Clara. Sarah asked a couple of questions and then she kind of let it go. I did not see this scene, and I don't understand that they cut it but included in the trailer. Do you remember, Jeremy, there was either a picture or a scene in the trailer where Clara is looking through a box and it looks like it's Sophia's box of her dad's stuff. She has like paper and it's Sarah. And a lot of us thought, oh my God, she's going to go through Sophia's stuff and she's going to figure out that she's not the pastor's daughter. But that never happened. We never saw that on screen. We never saw it actually come to fruition. But it was Sarah looking at some paperwork. And it was a box.
Paperwork. And it was in
I'll look for it.
It was in the main season 3 trailer?
I believe that it was like in a trailer.
Okay.
Or a full-on photo. If not, I will look for it and I'll bring it up so that you could see it. But I kept waiting for that, like, oh, it's going to be Sarah who finds out that she's not really who she says she is because of proximity. That didn't go anywhere. Also, do you remember that Fatima, when we are introduced to Colony House back in the day, they had a storyline of somebody being given a proxy. She says to Julie, hi, Julie, I'm your proxy.
Yeah.
And she explains the whole concept to us, right?
Yeah.
She explains how it works and why they do it. They kind of stopped with the whole proxy and choosing. So I understand that things got really, really hectic. But if there was ever somebody to assign Sophia to, like, this is the person, right? She lost her father. Kenny says, we're going to take care of you. And then Kenny kind of leaves her with Sarah and doesn't ever interact with her again. We kept thinking, oh, there's going to be a lot of interaction. Maybe she's going to kind of, buddy up with Kenny. And he dropped her off at Sarah's and never interacted again. So I thought, okay, you promised that you were going to take care of her. You hugged her and did this whole big drama scene of don't worry, because she was like, oh, my dad is dead. When she was outside, and then you never followed up, Kenny. You never went back to Sarah's to check on her. You never approached her. There was never a conversation between them again.
Yeah, I mean, it's this whole proxy thing. I mean, it was a very formal thing in season 1, like when it happened with Julie and Fatima, and I feel like they still kind of did it, up until like season 3. Like in season 3, when Acosta arrives, it seems like Kenny kind of fills that role. I mean, I don't know how like official it was. I don't know if we ever hear him say I'm your proxy or anything like that to Acosta, but it was basically kind of the same principle where he was kind of showing her the ropes. And yeah, this season it kind of started off that way as well, where Kenny was as soon as Sophia got here, Kenny was starting to kind of show her the ropes a little bit. But yeah, it wasn't as prominent as like the proxy thing was in season 1. It did kind of fade away. And same thing with the choosing ceremony as well. It seems like they don't even do choosing ceremonies anymore. It seems like they're back to kind of just being one big town. So yeah, things have changed a lot in terms of the rules and regulations in which the town functioned in season 1 versus now, for sure. And I guess I wonder if we'll ever see a choosing ceremony ever again. I don't know. I think some of us were expecting to see some kind of split within the town this season, because that was kind of a little bit foreshadowed, that this town was going to kind of slowly start to kind of lose its faith and lose its trust in Boyd. And we didn't really see much of that. We saw a little bit of it, but not to the extent I was expecting to see it. Like, I think a big portion of the fandom was expecting to see some kind of schism, some kind of split in the town this season, where it kind of split off into 2 factions again. I know that was a huge fan theory heading into this season, but it just wasn't anywhere near as devastating as I thought it was going to be, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. Choosing ceremonies, proxies, it seems like these are things from the earlier days of From, when things were run a little more rigid and structured. Now it just seems like they're just doing everything they can to survive. And I wonder if maybe that factors into some of these other things not being super prominent anymore. They had time to worry about things like proxies. They had time to worry about things like choosing ceremonies in season 1, because they weren't getting slaughtered as much left and right. When the season first begins, the series first begins, one thing we see was, yeah, exactly 96 days of peace, which means they went around, over 3 months with not a single person dying. And we've seen how many people died just in the span of since the Matthews family have arrived, which has not been anywhere near 96 days yet. So I think maybe that could factor into a little bit of why we're not seeing some of these kind of ceremonies, these rituals, as it were. From is built on rituals, and even their community was kind of built on rituals in the beginning, like these choosing ceremonies. But maybe that's why we're not seeing more of them, because they're kind of just worrying about surviving now after all the, after everything that's progressed.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, right? Everything is kind of getting crazy. They can't keep functioning, right? This is supposed to be war. So this season, they said it's wartime. And Khatri kind of says that to Boyd. He reminds him, hey, you are not in times of peace now, Boyd. Therefore, they can't do the things that they usually do. So that makes sense. It was just very convenient that Sophia always kept getting away with things. I found that to be a little annoying, that she kind of just keeps getting away with everything she wants. And from the comments from other reviewers, I kind of saw the same thing of like, she just keeps getting away with things, and it's so convenient that nobody is noticing this girl who is completely new going around doing all of these things. Yeah, but it is what it is. It is what it is. The season is wrapped up. I don't want to be super negative. I don't want to be super negative, but at least I'm glad that I'm not the only one, because I thought, am I being super negative about the character and how they went about the character, or is there actually something there? And what I'm seeing from the comments is that some people were kind of seeing the same thing. So at least I don't feel like I'm insane.
No, I don't think so. Again, I think, and you wouldn't be insane. You wouldn't be insane even if you were the only one who thought that. Everybody's entitled to their opinion and to kind of consume media how they like. We can only be honest at the end of the day. And if there's things we like, we talk and praise them. We talk about them and praise them. And if there are scenes that we don't like, we talk about them and we discuss why we don't like them. You'll never hear us just say we don't like something. We always give I believe we always give a pretty, long and detailed answer as to why certain scenes maybe just don't work for us. And there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody's welcome to their own opinion. But yeah, I think season 4 did a lot of things right, but it also did a lot of things wrong too at the same time. But yeah, again, a lot of people were wondering if the town was going to turn on Boyd. And I see this comment a lot from a lot of people, and it's something I did kind of notice as well in terms of a lot of the side storylines kind of fizzled out and didn't really go anywhere. There were a few small storylines that started at the beginning of the season and didn't really turn out to really be anything. And I think Sarah was an example of that. We see Sophia kind of seeing if she can find a way to manipulate Sarah, seeing if she can find a way to get her hooks into her again. And we see she does. Sophia successfully manipulates Sarah into doing the whole thing with the water in the pitcher. And that definitely made us as the audience feel like, okay, this is setting something up. This is setting Sophia up to make Sarah do something, probably crazy later on towards the end of the season. And nothing happened of it. It was a storyline that just didn't go anywhere. Yes, they could be carrying it over to season 5, but that does start to get a little old every once in a while when they start off storylines at the beginning of a season and don't close them out in that same season. After 3-4 straight seasons of that, you can understand why the audience might, not like that format every single season. It's understandable. Nothing wrong with that. So yeah, there were a few side storylines that started off pretty good this season, but kind of just fizzled out and are probably going to be carried over to season 5.
Yes. And I like what Saggy started saying here about, hi, Saggy. I like what she's saying about the Fatima storyline. We spent so much time with the Fatima storyline. Eventually, she became a monster, like a lot of people were thinking. Like, oh my God, she's going to turn into a monster because she gave birth to a monster. But I still question, why is it that she was chosen for this? It seems like Sophia makes bargains with people. She was never offered a bargain to begin with. We don't see that. So to me, it just seems like, I don't know, they're missing a step there. I just kept feeling like there's a step here that is missing. Maybe if there was a bargain made with her and she was willing to pay the price, knowledge comes with the price. She has knowledge of the monsters. And so therefore pay the price, become a monster. So that would make a little bit more sense. So for me, the storyline that I wanted to see, that they kind of didn't follow up on. We spent a lot of time with the golem that ended up being nothing but a metaphor. For a metaphor, we don't need multiple episodes. This could have been done in one. You build the thing, you show it to a couple of people, your husband, and it becomes this metaphor because it's not going to be anything. We spend way too much time on this. I would have liked to see what they set up with Acosta kind of be explored, because they set Acosta up to have a really interesting storyline this season. They set her up by becoming somebody that really wanted to help. Remember when Tilly died, she said she was going to go on an investigation. She even said, I'm going to tell the entire town about this, Boyd. You're not going to get away with it. You're a monster. So I thought, okay, if there's going to be dissent, it's going to be Acosta against Boyd. She then doesn't tell anybody anything. She becomes suicidal. Okay, that was still interesting because she's usually a very tough woman. So she becomes suicidal. He then gives her a task. She seems to be very good at the task. She seems to be growing closer to Boyd. And I wanted to see her storyline be explored, for her to become super helpful, for her to find something, for her to... I would like to see her grow more as a person. I know that they kind of hinted at the fact that she did become close to Boyd and that she grew as a person because she was driving the vehicle, right? The getaway car after the tree was taken out. And she was being super helpful. She was basically the voice of reason in the finale. But I would have liked to hang out with Acosta a little bit more and see how she's managing, how she went from suicidal to all of a sudden, she's okay now. She's solid.
Yeah. Boyd gives her this task, kind of early on in the season to investigate this man in yellow, gives her everything that he has to go on. She does a little bit of investigating, but it doesn't really amount to anything. It doesn't really lead to anything, at least not yet. Maybe it will in next season, but so far, not yet. And then there's the door inside the Colony House basement. That was another very interesting storyline that got set up as early as episode 5, midway through the season. We learn about that door when Jade goes on his mushroom trip. And I think a lot of us were wondering, okay, what kind of role is this door going to play? And I think a lot of us figured it would play some part in when Jade eventually goes down into the caves to look for the bones, that this was maybe going to be their entrance. But then they just never go back to it. So it's little storylines like this that they continuously set up in one season and don't pay off in that same season. And again, that's okay in the earlier seasons when you're setting up all the mystery for a mystery box show. But when you're in the final 2 seasons, yeah, you like to see some of these smaller storylines get set up and get finished within the course of the same season. So I understand what people are talking about when they bring up some of those storylines.
Yeah, there was a lot that could have been followed. You don't have to follow all of them. I understand some things are set up and then they're gonna pay off in the last season. But follow up with one. I mean, when they gave us a summary of the plot, they did hint that there was gonna be some dissent, that Boyd was gonna be losing some control of the town. Do
Yeah.
you feel like they showed us that? Because I didn't feel like he lost control of the town at all.
No.
I feel like for the most part, his authority over the town was the same.
It was
It
pretty
didn't
simple.
feel like there was anybody against them. It didn't feel like anybody was giving up information as to what he had covered up. They didn't even touch on the cover ups.
Yeah. Yeah, it did. It did. It's again, yeah, and maybe that's another example of them as well, of that as well. Because yeah, I didn't get the sense at any point that Boyd was like really losing control of the town. Not like I thought he was going to. Not like it kind of seemed like he was going to from some of the interviews and stuff. So yeah, and as Doug says, the door in the basement did kind of lead to Acosta not offing herself. I suppose that is one thing, but that's not much of a really good payoff considering, where this door originated from in terms of it being tied to Jade's visions in the tunnels and the caves and all of that. Especially seeing the spiders down there as well. So I feel like it's a byproduct of, Acosta not offering herself is maybe a byproduct of that storyline, but it doesn't feel like a good payoff for it. And again, we'll probably get a better payoff for it in season 5, but that's the example that some fans are talking about, these smaller storylines that are getting set up in one season and not getting finished in the same one. And again, I can understand where some fans are coming from. I think it's a fair criticism.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I mean, Makeda here, the voice of reason, we explore Patty's whole thing. We explore Patty and her storyline. She went to Cannibal Village, she got back, she got her face burned, then she went over there to help at the bottle tree.
Yeah.
But we didn't explore the door fine, you don't want to explore the door because that's necessary for the next season. What about Acosta? We kind of were hanging out with Acosta, right? And seeing a lot of her. We were seeing her have breakdowns. We were seeing her be
It was
set
good
up
this
to
season.
find something. Because you can't tell me that they did not set her up to find something valuable. The setup was there, that she would be somebody that finds something valuable. So we didn't explore that. It's just maybe where the focus went. Some of us wanted the focus to be directed towards the main cast, and it was given to newcomers, I guess I would say.
Mhm. Yeah, maybe. And I do agree with this. I don't think at any point Boyd was really ever in control of losing the town. He is very much in control, in risk of losing himself, though. And I think that was one thing that definitely did play out over the season and was very fun to watch happen. Because Harold Perrineau's always good in these kind of moments. These moments where he has to be a little bit more vulnerable because, he's always so strong, so sure of himself. So when he has these moments where he has to kind of physically take a step back, it's so interesting to see him kind of deal with that psychologically. So yeah, I think when I look at Boyd's storyline this season, it was more about him at war with himself, him fighting this battle within himself rather than him, risking losing control of the town. It just didn't feel that way. It felt like it was more an internal struggle, a psychological struggle. And I think that's why a lot of his visions and a lot of the stuff that he was seeing this season was all tied to Abby, to his wife. Because up until this point, he still hasn't accepted what he's done. He hasn't forgiven himself for what he's done. It's something that he needs to face, that he has been putting off. So I think in season 4, Boyd is more at war with himself than he is at risk of losing control or losing the faith of the town, at least in season 4. Maybe that could happen in season 5, where the town does start to lose faith in him. Maybe as he starts to deteriorate more because of the Parkinson's, they start to see that maybe they don't have the same faith in him protecting them. I could see that playing out in season 5. But yeah, in season 4, it never felt like he was going to lose control of the town. It always just felt like he's at war internally with himself.
Yeah, Doug here mentions that Christy gave him this pep talk, and that sort of inspired Doug.
Yeah.
And I have to be honest, I kept a close eye on that conversation. So, and we did, right, Jeremy? Christy, she's kind of missing in action for the first half of the series, right? It seems like she is not in the inner circle as much as she used to be. They have a conversation about that.
Yeah,
She
she
tells
was upset about it. Yeah, that Boyd
Oh
wasn't
yeah, she
coming to
tells
her.
Boyd like, "Hey, you're not
Yeah.
coming over. You're not telling me what's going on. Are you still seeing things that are not there? How is your hand trembling and all this?" And Boyd is just like, "No, I'm totally fine, right?" And she says, "I need to see you. You need to come over for a checkup. I need to see you." And so he does. He finally goes over when
Yeah.
it has been too much mentally. He is seeing things that are not there, and he goes over to talk to her. I don't feel like what she said had any substance. She said the same thing that Donna has said to Boyd, that Ellis said to Boyd, that everybody says to him. You can't break down. The town depends on you. You don't have the luxury of breaking down. This has been said to that man constantly, like over and over again.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Give me a pill, give me something, help me."
Yeah,
And she
desperate.
says, "I can't. There's nothing I could do, Boyd." So why did you want him to go over to talk to you about it? Just so that you had the info that he's not doing well mentally and you offer nothing in return? That was just nonsensical to me. She didn't even have this conversation with him about, your wife and what you had to do with her was very difficult, Boyd. You know that your mental health could be affecting what is happening to you physically. Nothing. It was just, "Oh, sorry, I can't help you." No, Boyd, I can help you. Why did he need to go over to you when you did nothing? You just wanted the information. I'll tell you who did have a good pep talk, something that actually helped Boyd. That was Father Cawtrey.
The
Father
Cawtrey. Yeah.
Cawtrey told Boyd, "Let's talk about the issue. The issue here is your wife. You have to get over it. If you do not get over this, this is going to be your downfall." That was a good conversation because he addressed the issue, the mental health issue of it all. When it comes to Christy, she literally said, "I can't help you. There's nothing I could do." It was like, girl, why did you have him go over there and talk to you in the first place?
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. But yeah, I don't know. It's and again, I see a few people bringing this up as well, that maybe one thing that From might suffer from a little bit is having too many characters and not enough screen time. And I do think at times that can be the case. I mean, this is a pretty large, vast cast. And there are characters that we haven't really spent any time with yet at all, and even got to know them, like Bacta, for instance. Bacta gets introduced in season 2. She's part of the original bus crew, along with Randall, Marielle, and Elgin, and the rest of them. Yet we haven't really learned anything about Bacta other than that one scene we got between her and Jade in the bar. And this was always a character I was very much looking forward to seeing them explore a little bit more, especially when they gave us that little tidbit of her already knowing that creepy nursery rhyme before she even got into Fromville, which made a lot of us wonder, okay, does Bacta have some sort of connection to this place that hasn't been revealed yet? So that was always something interesting. I was looking forward to the show exploring a little bit more, this Bacta character. But yeah, at times, maybe it does seem that they just can't explore certain characters as much as they want to, because of, there's only so many episodes and so many minutes in an episode, unfortunately. And I think that has a lot to do with just modern day television nowadays. You look 5-10 years ago, we were getting anywhere from 15, 20, sometimes 24 or even 25 episodes a season for some shows, and we were getting them every single year. You fast forward not even 10 years later, and TV has, the production of TV has slowed down immensely. Yes, the quality has gone way up. The production scale, the production value has gone way up, which is, a reason why it takes so much longer now. But at the end of the day, most fans don't care about that kind of thing. They just care about when are we going to get it. So I think that plays a little bit into it, where when you have a show that only has 10 episodes and the episodes are only 45 minutes long each, unfortunately there's going to be some characters that are just not going to be able to get some screen time, especially when you have a cast this big. So I do think at times might suffer from too large a cast. Yes.
Mm-hmm. That could be it. And it could be the focus too. So John Griffin said, the creator, right, the writer, said that he received a call from Jack Bender, who told them, I like the idea of Sophia having, or the Man in Yellow, having an insider in the town, having a mole. I like the idea of this being Clara. And so they added this. They said they wanted to explore the background characters, which they usually don't explore. They added this. They told us that in an interview. And who made the call and who made that call in the actual show. But it was a phone call that was made. They even discussed that much. And when it comes to that, it's like we paid attention to the Clara storyline. That also didn't make sense, because this entity in yellow, if this is the entity that has been doing everything, then Sophia has had the power to be aware of things when she wasn't in the room. You're saying that Clara is the mole. Let's say that Clara was providing all this information. She wasn't in every single room, and yet the entity in yellow was able to make phone calls to the Matthew house, and Clara wasn't there. Clara wasn't visiting the Matthew house that often. She could have given information about Colony House, but this entity seemed to know a lot without necessarily having herself or Clara in the room. They also kind of destroy this house without even being seen. If it is Sophia that's doing this, why does she need a physical person in the town to tell her anything? Why are we exploring Clara as the mole and not Acosta and what she's going through? Why are we giving Acosta a description of this man in yellow to look for and then not following up on her actually looking for him? Because she took out a little notebook and she started writing down what Boyd was saying. And she even said, oh, so that was not just to keep me busy. It wasn't just busy work. And he said, no, it wasn't just busy work. I'm hoping that you could find something that will help us find this man in yellow. She takes out a notebook and writes down the details of this man. And then we never even get to see her going out, looking, nothing. But we're exploring Patty and Clara. Jeremy?
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole Clara mole storyline, it did feel a little bit like fan service at time, like when it kind of popped up, just because it was such a hugely popular fan theory. I have to imagine the writers and the creators knew that this was a hugely popular fan theory. They do seem to kind of be pretty in tune to some of the bigger theories, maybe, although I could be wrong. But yeah, I don't know. It just felt like it was a little fan servicey. Like, this is something they know the fans are talking about a lot. Let's throw this in there as a little wink and a nod. And there's nothing wrong with that, I guess. It just wasn't. I don't know. Was it needed? I guess. We see the stuff that Sophie is doing. She's already she in herself is already a mole. But I think maybe revealing the Clara thing might have just been a precursor to something else. And I think that is the bargains. I think the bargain aspect is maybe the real reason why they did this Clara thing. They wanted to show that the man in yellow is prone to making bargains. And maybe it was just set up for a bigger payoff later, that when we find out that he was the one that made a bargain with the original parents. That's the only thing I can think of, it's serving the narrative that way. Like, that would serve the narrative in a sense, this precursor to a bigger bargain. So maybe that's why they did it. I don't know.
But then you have Elgin. You have Elgin's scene that we spent a lot of the finale on, where she says, do you want to make a bargain?
Yeah.
And she says it over and over to this man.
Yeah.
And when he doesn't agree to the bargain, she kills him. So
Mhm.
that's a great scene to show, oh, he likes making bargains. You basically have to agree, because if you
Yeah.
don't agree, you're going to get it anyway. So
Yeah.
at this point, your only salvation is to agree to whatever bargain she wants, or death. That's a
Mhm.
scene that, perfectly lets us know this is what happens when she offers a bargain to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think both of those scenes were maybe meant to both serve that purpose, to show us as the audience that the man in yellow is prone to making bargains, that the bargain it made with Clara wasn't a one-off. Like, this is something it does a lot. Or at least maybe, I don't know. I don't know. But again, it was a little too on the nose because it was Clara. I feel like if they would have picked a different character for it to be the mole, I think maybe that would have landed a little bit better. Just because the Clara theory has been, around for so long, it's kind of turned into a meme, really. It kind of turned into a joke, and it wasn't even really so much a theory at this point, where everyone was always blaming everything on Sophia just because she was one of the original mole characters. So I feel like, given that it was such a big fan theory, maybe that's why it didn't land so well, or maybe that's why it just felt a little fan servicey to me. I think if Sophia would have done the mole thing with a different character, if it wasn't Clara, maybe it would have played a little better.
Hmm. I mean, yeah, the time. This is the thing. We have a limited time with the show. We just do. We don't get a ton of episodes. The episodes are not super long. So every minute on screen is very valuable. I mean, we wait all year for the episodes to drop. The series, it's not like back in the day where they had 28 episodes. Then it's like, yeah, let's explore everybody. But time is very limited, and it is precious time. We have a huge cast. There's a lot of people. I mean, there's like 40 something people in the town, and the main cast themselves. We often say that the main character is a ton of people instead of just one. It's not just Jade and Tabitha, it's Jade, Tabitha, Boyd, the Matthews family. So it's multiple people, right? When they provide time to Patty or Clara, it doesn't come off as playful the way that they said, we wanted to explore this, to try something new. Don't play with the time, because we don't have that much time with you. Your episodes are super short, and then we don't get to see the people that we actually care about, the people that we're invested in. We're invested in Boyd, Christy, Elgin, Sarah. We're invested in those stories. And now all of the sudden you're taking us from being with them 24/7 to suddenly being with randos. And
Mhm.
it does matter because you don't have time to play. That's how they describe it. We wanted to play around with the background to try different things. We don't have the time, unfortunately.
Mhm. Yeah, and again, I think that it goes back to what we were talking about just a few minutes ago, where at times it seems like maybe From has too big a cast, where it just doesn't have enough screen time, just doesn't have enough hours, not enough minutes to properly give every character a real storyline every season and real screen time. It's just not possible. There's too many characters and not enough time at the end of the day. So I think that could factor into it at times. Sometimes when you're in the cutting room floor and you're in the editing room, you have to kind of make those kind of sacrifices where certain characters get less screen time in favor of others. But yeah, sometimes when the cast is a little too big, that might be a good time to start killing some characters off, maybe, especially a character like this, a show like this that's so dangerous, where you can kill characters off in very interesting and meaningful ways that will serve the story going forward. Nobody wants to see a death scene just for a death scene, or at least I don't anyway. If a character is going to get killed off, I want it to serve the narrative. I want it to serve the actual story. And I think there were a few moments in season 4 where if we would have got a death scene, instead of like the last minute saves that we got in a few minutes, it would have just added so much weight to some of these scenes, and have been some pretty interesting catalysts for certain characters going forward and giving them motivations, different motivations. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe, just maybe every once in a while, it seems like it's just a really big cast and just not a lot of episodes.
Yeah, yeah. But I like what Ben Safras is saying here. Clara being able to intimidate Elgin. I
She did.
understand when you do
She
it for
did.
one character, okay? This is just my personal opinion, but we had a lot of growth in some of the characters. They went through traumatic events, like
We did.
major traumatic events. When you look at the calendar, I'll make a calendar and show you guys. They literally went from one day having something major happen, like their eye being taken out, to the next day falling again for photographs. It doesn't add up. It doesn't make
Yeah.
sense. Or Sarah, she went from one day taking somebody eye out and being able to give us a beautiful monologue where Sarah says, this place, it preys on people. You're never going to get what you want. I know how much it's going to take, Boyd. I have to do this. I won't let it take Boyd's soul. Like that is how hardcore she thought that this place was, that this place cannot be trusted. She goes from taking somebody's eye out to all of a sudden backtracking for a girl that she barely knows. She doesn't know Sophia. The entity said, I'm going to hurt somebody that you love. And she goes and does whatever the entity says. So it happens with Sarah, okay, fine. But then it happens with Elgin. It happens with multiple people that had character growth and then they backtrack. They grew last season and then all of a sudden they became dummies. And so when it happens to multiple people, that's when it becomes problematic. With Elgin, Elgin took down a pregnant Fatima who was the queen of Colony House. He took her down. She was trying to climb the stairs. He dragged her. He fed her blood. Elgin is not somebody that is supposed to knocking down a woman. Like we've seen him. He dragged Fatima, right? She was not getting away. So when Clara just stepped in front of him and he was like, oh, I guess I can't go anywhere. Didn't even try to push her, nothing. I mean, I liked how Elgin's story ended. He really held on to his religion. He prayed. It went the Khatri way, and he didn't accept the bargain. I like that for him. I like that he learned something. His character learned, guess what? Making a deal with this place is never going to work. I'm not even going to go there. I'm going to die having my morals and my ethics, and I'm not going to play the game anymore. So I did like that ending. But it's little things like this.
Mhm. Yeah, no, and that's again, there were some, there could have been some tweaks to certain storylines that maybe would have helped here and there, absolutely. But when it comes to Elgin, I do think Elgin had a pretty good ending, and we were talking about that last night, and when we were talking about him learning something finally, and I think that was the big problem that Elgin was having throughout season 4 after going through this crazy kind of journey that he went through. With the kimono creature, from believing that this was an angel sent from God, that he was doing God's will, that he was going to save everyone. Elgin ultimately kidnapped Fatima because he believed it was going to lead to getting everybody home. So yes, it wasn't coming from an evil, malicious intent. He was just misled. He was misguided. He was manipulated, which is exactly what the forces in this place does to people. It finds the people that are the most vulnerable, the most kind of caring, the most open, and it gets inside of them and it twists them. But it did to Sarah, and exactly what it did to Elgin as well. So I did like him kind of redeeming himself in the end, in those final moments where he could have easily caved. I imagine a lot of people in that situation probably would have caved. They probably would have said whatever Sophia wanted just to save their lives, just so they didn't have to die. But I think Elgin finally clicked for him in that diner. I think that is the actual moment where he finally learned the lesson that he needed to learn about this place, about seeing the truth amidst all the lies, which is what he said to Julia earlier in the season. And I think in that scene, he's finally seeing the truth amidst all the lies. And he knows Sophia is the lie. And he holds his ground and he dies like a fucking brave motherfucker, I must say. I liked it. I thought Elgin had a great send-off on the show. He stood his ground. He got redemption in my eyes. And I think it was a worthy send-off for the character. And I think the only thing I would have loved to see is a little bit more of that. Some other characters getting some really good send-offs like that. But yeah, Elgin is no more. Our Elgin is no more. But again, and let me know what you guys think in the comment section as well. Do you think Elgin redeemed himself? Did he actually redeem himself by standing his ground, not kind of giving in to Sophia, not taking the deal when he easily could have? Was that enough for Elgin to redeem himself in your eyes, just as a fan of the show? Or no, did he not redeem himself? Was that not enough? What do you guys think ultimately? I definitely would have lied to Sophia and agreed 100%. I think, again, anything for freedom, I think a lot of people would have. I think a lot of characters on the show probably would have. And again, we're humans. Humans, at the end of the day, have a natural defense mechanism built within us. We have a natural kind of biological imperative to want to survive. It's very hard to override that imperative. So yeah, I think just by human nature, a lot of us probably would have wanted to take that deal just to kind of buy us some time to come up with something else. At least we're still alive. We can come up with a plan to get out from under this Sophia character, but at least we're alive. Again, I have to imagine that kind of crossed Elgin's mind, but he still didn't take the deal. He still didn't go that way. He kind of just stood his ground. And again, I think that's admirable. I think it's super admirable for Elgin. And I liked the ending for his storyline. It was good. But yeah, let us know what you guys think. Was it a worthy death? Was it worthy of redemption? Or was it a dumb death? Again, that's, we definitely can have varying opinions on that. There's nothing wrong with that. What did you guys think? Elgin, while flawed, showed growth. Not sure he redeemed as a character, but he did grow, and that's more than many. Absolutely no more Mr. Nice Guy. Again, learning something about yourself, learning a mistake, learning from a mistake, that is sometimes the biggest goal, the biggest reward, I guess you could have. And I think he did. I think he finally learned from his mistakes in that final scene. I think it finally clicked for him in terms of him seeing the truth amidst the lies and noticing that, okay, Sophia is the lie that I'm not going to cave to. So yeah, Elgin learned his lesson for sure. He rather did not let himself get tricked to avoid to causing suffering to others, like he did in the past. He redeemed himself. Okay, Bruce Lee, I like it. Elgin knew he couldn't beat evil. That's why he just accepted it. I love how it ended for him. And I think that's also a good aspect of this to recognize as well, Delilah. I think that's a very good aspect because not only did he stand his ground, but that might have factored into why he did stand his ground. Because at that point he had seen, this Sophia character. He knows she's not human. And I think he just knows that this is it for him. I can't beat this person. And maybe that did factor into why he stood his ground. I could see that. I can definitely see that. Elgin coming back next season instead of Sophia, and I do think we might see this south-facing lad, because again, last thing we see is Sophia telling Paula to go hide the body. So I mean, again, we know Sophia is a shapeshifter. We know that if Elgin just completely goes missing, it's gonna definitely get noticed. People are gonna recognize his absence. So yeah, how do you combat that? How do you avoid that? Well, you try to find some kind of balance if you're Sophia, where you can turn into Elgin and back into Sophia, periodically, and maintain a presence in town of both characters so people don't notice Elgin's gone right away. So yeah, I think Elgin could definitely be one of Sophia's forms that we see in season 5. Yes, he did. Another redemption. No, he should have gone along with the bargain and told Boyd. Again, that could have been a really good option as well. You pretend to go along with the bargain. Just say whatever you need to say to ensure you're alive. Just tell Sophia what she wants to freaking hear at that point. And then yes, go to Boyd, tell him what's going on, tell him who Sophia is, and then you have actually done something incredibly useful. So I like that runner on the hill. I think that's actually probably would have been his best bet. If he would have done that, that would have been the best way to handle that situation. Agree with it, then go tell Boyd.
You know what? I see a lot of people saying this, and I think it's a good idea. That's what I would have done. You're gonna die anyway. Might as well die a hero. But let's look at how they wrote Elgin. They did not write this character as somebody that can critically think and can follow through on deception. Even when he kidnaps Fatima, he tells Ellis basically, I have her. Like, she's going to be okay, everything's going to be fine. That's why Ellis goes over to Boyd and says, hey, he was acting super weird. He said a couple of things that I'm almost sure he knows where she is. That's how they found out about what he had done, because he couldn't deceive, right? He wasn't good at it. That is how they wrote the character. It's just a matter of fact. So was he going to be able to critically think and do that? Probably not. The best he could have done is, lead with honesty. He didn't want to take the deal. Okay, that's, admirable. And he prayed and died with his ethics and morals as they were. So he learned a lesson. He learned a lesson. I just don't think that the way that they wrote the character, he would have been able to deceive convincingly to then go ahead and, double cross her.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true. Very true. Yeah. I mean, he went out he went out very bravely, I guess you could say. I think it was a noble end. I think he finally learned something. He finally realized what he was supposed to do. And he did it. He kind of faced it head on. And I don't think many characters would have done that. So I got to give him a little bit of props. Did he full on redeem himself? I don't know. I guess that's up to you guys in the chat if Elgin fully redeemed himself or not. But I do think at the very least he acquitted himself with honor. That is for
he
sure.
learned a lesson. That's all you could ask, right? Growth. He learned his lesson, not to listen to this place. Sarah taught him that lesson very well, so he learned it. Great. But I do like what somebody here in the chat said a little while ago. I had to go away, so I can't find the comment, but if it was you, let us know. Somebody here kind of brought things into perspective for me. They said, if we compare the deaths that we have had, like Tien Cheng's death, to the deaths that the characters were given this season, there is not one that compares to that. And I would have to agree. I 100%. Would 100% have to agree.
Not as
when
emotional.
It came to Tien Cheng, they were ruthless. The way that she went.
Even Jim's.
Even Jim's does not compare.
Yeah, even Jim's death was more just, the visceral nature of how Tien Chen and Jim died, the way that they died. I think they were probably the two most impactful deaths on the entire show outside of Father Cautry's death in season 1, in my opinion. But yeah, the deaths we got in this season, it was from some pretty important characters like Elgin and Marielle. I mean, not super main characters, but definitely main secondary characters. But yeah, in terms of like the actual death scene, the way that they went out, it was very honorable the way that Elgin went out, but it didn't. I didn't have that like super deep emotional impact, watching it like I did watching Tien Chen die or like I did watching Jim die. So yeah, I think that's a valid thing to say, that it didn't hit quite as hard.
No, and this is season 4. So I mean, I love this show. You guys have listened to us say that they are geniuses. They're the best thing ever. You guys have listened to plenty of us, raving about how good the show is. But we can't be dishonest either. We cannot be dishonest because it would be obvious at this point. The deaths that they gave us, I'm not even somebody that likes gore. I'm not somebody that's like, yes, I want blood and gore and that's
I don't need
I
action.
do not like gore,
I don't need action.
But the way that
yeah,
the way that they killed Tien Cheng was not comparable to the way that we have to say goodbye to Mariel, the way we have to say goodbye to Elgin, and they could have done something with either one of the characters. For example, it doesn't take much for Mariel. Smiley kind of just stabs her and leaves her there. It's enough time for Fatima to kind of like, grab her and still have her body. It's as simple as what we saw them do to Tien Cheng. They like to play with the bodies. With Jim, they hung him up. They did something with his body. have Smiley leave, but take Mariel's body with them, dragging it out through there. That's enough of an impact to be like, oh my God, poor girl. Now they're going to do to her what they've done to all the others. But he kind of just leaves her there. The same for Elgin. Yes, he bleeds out of all of his orifices, but it just doesn't compare to Tian Sheng. That's just the reality of it.
Yeah. And that's why I think we had a really good opportunity this season for one character death that could have been so impactful. And again, you guys know how much I love Kenny. He's one of my favorite characters on the show, and he's actually one of the characters that I have predicted will make it all the way and survive. He's one of the few characters I think is going to live. But I got to say, if Kenny would have died in this scene, it would have just for me personally, it would have made this one of the best episodes in From History. It was already a great episode. This was one of the best episodes in season 4, hands down. But that last minute save, it was great that Kenny didn't die, but just from a writing standpoint, from a narrative standpoint, and from a standpoint of what is going to elicit the deepest emotional response out of the audience. That is killing Kenny in this scene. It is. I mean, again, I know that they probably have plans for him in season 5, so they probably just didn't want to kill him off. But just in terms of how it would have impacted the story, how it would have impacted some of the other characters that are close to Kenny, I think this could have been one of the most impactful deaths that we have ever seen on the show if Kenny would have died super heroically in this moment. Because not only would it have galvanized Boyd and, motivated him even more to kind of team up with Jade and get this done, get into the caves, get those bones, everything that they go on to do. It would have given Boyd so much more motivation, so much more clarity in a season where I think he really needed that. Because he was losing focus. He was really losing it. We see how tormented he is. I think something like this could have brought him back on track a little bit more and given him that focus back. Mm-hmm. And for Kenny, I think it could have been just a phenomenal last stand because it was Smiley in particular. Now, we know that Smiley is the one that killed Kenny's father. The first parent that he lost here, the first big loss Kenny suffers here in Fromville. What better way for Kenny to go out than facing down, trying to get revenge against the monster that killed his dad? What more noble and heroic way is there for a character to die? I don't know. I love Kenny. I don't want to see him die. Don't get me wrong. I just think just taking my emotions out of it, how much I like the character from a writing standpoint, just from a narrative standpoint, this would have been the biggest death in From History. Period. Hands down. It would have been so emotional. It would have been so impactful. So many of us probably would have been crying, and I think it would have easily capped off what could have been the best episode in From History. But again, it was still a great episode. Love this episode. This was probably my favorite episode of the whole season. But again, I think that could have been a really interesting moment to see Kenny die in that moment in this very heroic last stand, last ditch effort where he doesn't run from Smiley. He doesn't try to get away. He accepts his fate and he gives up a pretty good fight going out. It just would have been so interesting to see.
Yeah. From doesn't shy away from killing important people that you kind of are depending on. I mean, look at Father Cautry. He makes a whole plan. He kidnaps Sarah, puts her in the basement, and then he says, hey, I think that I'm here because God has a plan for me. I think we are book 74 and I'm planning on going out there. I think Sarah can help. He has a whole plan, right? Then out of nowhere, he gets slashed. Colony House is getting massacred, and then he gets slashed. He even says to Boyd, but my path, Boyd. And we felt the same because he had told us that there was this big plan coming. So we felt the same thing your path is being cut short. You're no longer going to be able to do that. And Boyd really called back full circle that moment by saying, you were supposed to be here with me. And now you're not, you died, right? So they were not afraid of killing people that you didn't expect to die. This would have been a moment to do that. You don't expect them to die, but this is a horrifying place where the people that you want alive, they just don't survive. Like Kenny's mom, we did not see that coming. Tian Sheng, Never saw that coming because she was so major in the town, right? She was like the heart of the town. So when they took her from us, it really was like super upsetting. It was one of their best moments in the show, I think.
It was. I think the Tien Chen death scene and the Khatri death scene are the two most memorable and two most impactful death scenes that I've seen on the show up until this point. Not just the death scenes in and of themselves, but the aftermath of the death scene, what happens afterwards or during it in Father Khatri's case. Afterwards, in Boyd's case with Tien Chen, seeing that scene in episode 2 at the very beginning when Jade walks into the barn and he sees Boyd just tied up to that post and he's just memorizing the last words that Tien Chen ever said in Mandarin, a language he doesn't even speak, by the way, just so he can properly convey Tien Chen's final words to Kenny. That is that's good fucking writing. That is incredibly good writing, an incredibly good performance from Harold Perrineau. Why, as soon as he gets out of his cuffs, you see him just crawling over to Tien Chen and just grabbing her, and you feel the weight of that moment and what it means, not just for Boyd, but what it's going to mean for Kenny when he gets back from the ruined settlement. Because at the time, Kenny's with Jim, thinking he's going to return the savior of the town. Look, I came back, the conquering hero. We found all the food. We saved the town, only for him to come back to find his mom dead. So again, that was such a good scene. That was such a good, impactful death scene where it wasn't a death scene just to have a shock value. It was a death scene that totally enhanced the narrative, totally enhanced the character of Kenny and of Boyd, gave them something a little extra to fight for. And even Jade to a certain extent, when Jade is the one preparing Tien Chen's body. And just as he leaves, he gives her that, that line that we all love. Don't worry, you'll come with us when we go. It was such an impactful death because it impacted the story in so many characters, so many ways. And I do think I do think Kenny's death here in this scene would have had that exact same impact. And again, Father Khatri is another one. I thought the Father Khatri death scene is my favorite one in the whole show, just considering just how it was written and how it was acted out. This character who is just so sure of himself, so sure that he has this destiny, this path that he's destined to walk, to save everyone, to be the 74th book and be etched in history, only to have that cut down. And especially to have that cut down when, the reason he gets killed in the first place is because he just has a natural inclining to help people. Right as Colony House is falling down, we see everybody make it into the sheriff's station. Father Khatri is the last one to go in. He's making sure everybody's inside. Just as he's about to go in himself, he hears one more voice say, "Father." And he instantly turns around. His natural inclining to turn around and help is what gets him killed. And I think that makes the death scene that much more impactful, seeing how he died. And then you see how he kind of processes it with him saying to Boyd, like you said, my path, my path. That is the type of thing that would usually make someone just lose all their faith right there in that moment, thinking they had this big path laid out ahead of them, and now all of a sudden it's cut short. But for Khatri, he didn't let it break him. He didn't let him ruin his faith. It seemed like it only made his faith stronger. Because from that point on, the only thing he wanted was Boyd to pray with him. It was just such an emotionally charged, deep, impactful scene. And again, that's what you want to see from a death scene on a TV show. I don't want to see them kill characters just for the sake of killing characters. That's stupid. That's meaningless. If you're going to kill a character, you want it to have meaning and you want it to affect the characters that are remaining afterwards. And that is something that I think From has done really good in seasons 1, 2, and 3. But yeah, it was just such an impactful scene, that Khatri scene.
Yeah. Well, listen, this is the thing, right? This is not coming out of nowhere. And this is where I'm saying that we need to be honest. Whether, you like it, you don't like it, we need to be honest. We give them all of the praise when the praise is there, but dishonesty is not cool. Sometimes I see dishonesty and it's like, come on, you've seen the first, second, and third season of this show. Those were amazing. The expectation of this season is not coming out of nowhere. They told us this. Remember, they set it up and they said the time of peace has ended. Now we're getting to the part where it gets really hard. And then Ethan tells us, we're getting to the part where it's scary. You have to have courage. They said this is war. If that was peace, this is time of war. And then Katri comes over and tells Boyd, you're not in time of peace anymore. So when they killed Tian Cheng and we had that emotional moment with Kenny when they killed his dad, that was time of peace. So when we have an expectation for what you're telling us is going to be time of war, that this is what it represents, there's that expectation.
Yeah.
Because that's what they told us. It's not coming out of nowhere. It's not us demanding, hey, why aren't you killing major characters? Why are you not doing this XYZ? They told us, season 1 and 2 and 3 was time of peace, and then Katri shows up and he's like, this is time of war. Ethan says, in a journey right before you're about to get to the end, that's when it gets really scary. He keeps saying that over and over. And in the summary, that's kind of what they alluded to. So in their interviews, that's what they said, that's what this season was going to be. The expectation is coming from something they set up for us. They told us to expect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's always interesting in trying to interpret some of the things that the creators say before season starts, because they usually always do these kind of interviews where they'll make the rounds with all of the kind of big popular publications like Screen Rant, Collider, and the works. And they'll have, little snippets of information, little new snippets of information in each one of these interviews. And that was the kind of gist that we were getting from some of these interviews before season 4 started, that this was going to be the darkest season yet, the toughest season yet for our survivors. And it was a tough season, but I don't think it was the toughest. I don't think it was their toughest season yet. Still to this day, I think season 2 was their toughest season, when they were dealing with not only the monsters, but this cicada nightmare that was ravaging the whole town. I think season 2 was the worst conditions they were living in. And again, you can also make that argument for season 3, when they were stuck in the middle of this Fromville winter. That was incredibly harsh conditions for them in season 3. So I do think it wasn't the hardest, but I'm hoping season 5 will be. Season 5 will likely be very fast paced, considering that they still have quite a lot to wrap up. There's a lot of stuff that still needs to be revealed. There's a lot of individual character driven storylines that need to play out and get resolution. There is a lot that they need to do, and they only have 10 episodes left to do it. So I'm very intrigued. I'm super interested to see what this 5th and final season is going to look like. What's the pacing going to look like? Are they going to have to speed things up a little bit? What is the finale going to look like? How are they going to set it up? I think there's a lot of questions heading into season 5 and what season 5 is going to look like. And that's fun. That's interesting, not knowing what the structure of this last season might look like.
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing, because you did a poll. And just like you are doing a poll, a lot of the creators that have been covering the show, they themselves are doing their reviews. Rotten Tomatoes, Screen Rant, all of the people that they sent information to and did interviews, reviews, that's coming in, right? So I'm interested. They say that they don't get swayed by the opinion, right? But of course, you're going to see how your show is received. So I'm interested to see season 5. Are we going to continue to try to experiment, or are we going to go back to basics, to what they did season 1 and 2? Because that's what I would like. Let's go back to what you were doing then. You said you were experimenting. These are the results.
Yeah, I think when it comes to a final season, the writing needs to be kind of like ironclad going into it. And I imagine that's probably what they're doing right now, working on that final script, making sure they're tying up all the loose ends they possibly can. I think it's going to be intriguing to see what this final season is going to look like. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, do you generally think they're going to pull it off? These writers don't do fast pace. I mean, again, and that's why I'm bringing it up, Robert, because I do think it is a little interesting and even a little concerning. Because like I said, they have a lot to wrap up. There is still so much they need to reveal. There's a lot, again, not just the mystery answers, but the individual character driven narratives, the character storylines. There is so many characters and so many storylines that they still need to wrap up. And yeah, they only have 10 episodes to do it. And I guess it's a matter of what these final 10 episodes are going to look like. If we're going to get the final 10 episodes similar length of this season, where they're all only around 40 to 45 minutes long of actual show screen time, that might be tough to pull off. I mean, I would love to see the final season get some extended run times, where maybe make every episode like an hour long instead of just 45 minutes. I saw someone in the chat saying they would love to see season 5 have 15 episodes instead of 10. I would fucking love that too. Don't get me wrong. I would love to see the final season have even 13 or 15 episodes. But I don't think that's going to be the case. It seems like MGM is very set on this 10 episode format. So I would be very shocked if we get more than 10 episodes in the finale. In the final season, excuse me. It'll likely be 10. So yeah, I don't know. I guess that's a good question that I would love to hear from all of you guys in the chat as well. And you too, PM. Knowing where we are, seeing where the story has left off at the end of season 4, knowing that we only have one season left, do you guys think that they can pull everything off in a satisfactory manner? What do you guys think about this 5th and final season? Do you have confidence in it? I guess is the case. And again, even though I didn't really enjoy season 4 all the time, I still enjoyed a good deal of season 4. There was plenty of moments I really, really liked, plenty of episodes I really, really liked. And I think when I look at the whole of their body of work, they have done way, way more good than bad. So part of me, yeah, does want to give them the benefit of the doubt that they have a pretty sound plan to end this, to end the show in a way where it's going to be satisfying, where fans are going to get the answers they want, where characters are going to get the kind of final resolutions that we're always meant to get. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt because they've delivered a lot more good storytelling than bad storytelling up until this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guess it depends on what you care about, right? Because I think that the fandom we all love From, but there are different subplots. People who care about answers, resolution, following plot lines. It depends on what you care about and your confidence in them being able to execute that. I don't care about answers. If the season, I am somebody that can stomach an ending to a show that is ambiguous, where you don't know exactly what the answer is and you have to make it up for yourself. So I don't really care about answers. I don't care about them wrapping everything up in a neat bow, following up on every single thing they set up. That's fine. What I do care about and what pulling off the ending would look like to me, it would be going back to the storytelling that we had in season 1, 2, and 3. There was a contrast that is very obvious. The storytelling that we had in 1, 2, and 3 was following up on the details of the characters, how they were growing, who they were, what had happened, right? So I just want to go back to that. I don't need the answers to everything. I just wanted to feel like From did. And there is a contrast. Anybody who says that there isn't a contrast, that it isn't different, the writers themselves said that they experimented with a couple of different things. So yes, I think that they can, if they go back to that, if they go back to what the aesthetic of what From is, and they focused on the main cast like they usually do. They could pull it off. Yes, of course. I think they can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I think it's really all going to depend on just how they tackle this final season. What is the pacing going to look like? What does an ending From look like to the writers? Does it mean wrapping up every single tiny little mystery with a bow? I don't know. Probably, maybe, but probably not. I think for me, one of the things that I want to see resolved the most are the individual character-driven narratives. Yes, we definitely want answers to these larger mysteries, like who is the boy in white, and all of the who's the man in yellow, where did he come from, what's he really want, how did this original sacrifice happen? I definitely want to get all that, and I have to imagine we will. But for me, a satisfying season ending, a series ending, is okay if it's a little bit ambiguous, as long as the individual character-driven storylines are wrapped up definitively. That to me is more important than the mystery aspect. Getting these characters right, because I've been watching the show for the most part for the characters. I like the mystery too, but the characters are the most intriguing part of the show for me. Seeing some of these actors kind of slip into these roles so incredibly well, like Harold Perrineau playing Boyd or Scott McCord playing Victor. There's so much good acting on this show that it would be a travesty if they wrapped up all the mystery but didn't have a good kind of ending for the character-driven narrative. So I hope we get a good balance of both, and I imagine that's probably what they're going to try to deliver. But yeah, I mean, like many people are saying in the chat, they have a lot to wrap up, and some, it's a little, concerning, or it's, at the very least, it's cause for wondering if they're going to be able to pull this off in just one season. But I think they can. Again, I think they can. I think the writers have earned my benefit of the doubt. I think they've told an amazing story for the most part, with just incredibly well-rounded and grounded characters that are very real and very believable. So I want to give them the benefit of the doubt that, yeah, they'll be able to finish season 5 and they will be able to stick the landing. But you never know. Sticking the landing on these mystery box style of storytelling shows, it is not easy. I mean, just ask, Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse about the ending of Lost. And how satisfying that was for the fandom. Many people loved it, myself included. I thought Lost ended fine, but I know a lot of people didn't like the ending as well. And that's going to probably be how From is going to end. If I just had to guess from just how the fan reception is, I see From ending in a similar manner, where you're going to have a big portion of the fandom that loves the ending and feels like they got every single answer and every single story wrapped up that they wanted to. And I think there'll be another portion of the fandom that is going to say, that is going to kind of receive it similar to how some people received Lost, where they feel like it just wasn't a good ending. So I see From ending in a similar manner, at least in terms of fan reception.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, like I said, I think it depends on where you put your focus. Like, what is a good ending to you? Do you
Exactly.
need all of the resolution, or do you need it to be this character drama? You like the character drama of it all. I really wanted to see From is a heartbreaking show. Okay. This is
Mhm.
not a happy go lucky show. This is a heartbreaking show. That's how they opened season 1. They've taken everything from Kenny and they've taken it in the worst way possible. This is a heartbreaking show. Okay. So this is not about happy endings and all this blah blah.
Mhm.
But when it comes to Victor and his father, I really liked, I mean, the actor is amazing. The actor that's playing Victor, so compelling. He's
Oh,
just
he's great.
amazing. He did an
Great.
amazing job.
Yeah.
I really wanted to see the conclusion of the relationship, because they started off really, really good, right? Where Henry promised to take care of him. And
Mhm.
Victor, all of the sudden, he was able to start trusting him slowly. It didn't happen right away because he didn't even want to get close to him. Sarah had to coerce him into just go and say hi. And then he even moved them into his room. And he does tell him, like, why are you doing this, when he points the gun at him? You said you would take care of me, which was such a heartbreaking line. Remember the line when he met him? I didn't know how to get home. This line was equally as heartbreaking. You said you would take care of me. I thought that that would have been a great ending. They already had them fighting over this gun because he didn't want his father to hurt Ethan. He didn't do anything when he was just pointed at himself. It was almost like Victor was accepting it, but he
Yeah.
was not going to let him hurt Ethan. And I thought if the story ends here, it would be tragic and it would be a character drama. He ends up killing his own father, the thing that he wanted the most, to be back reunited with the parent. He ends up having to kill him because his parent doesn't come through with the promises he made. I thought it was perfect, But then Henry makes it out, and it's like, do we really need Henry?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we need Henry.
Mm. Yeah, I think when it came to that scene, and Ethan opens the door, I thought, don't tell me, are they actually going to do the unthinkable here and really have Henry shoot Ethan? Like, for a split second, I actually thought that was going to happen. But yeah, then we see Victor kind of subdue him. And yeah, maybe that scene probably would have played a little bit better if Victor would have kind of grabbed the gun and accidentally Henry would have shot himself. But then again, it seems like they really like Robert Joy as an actor. He's a great actor. I can understand why. So maybe they just have a specific role for him in season 5 that they want to see play out. But yeah, no, I think that could have been an interesting scene that when Henry pulls the gun, he accidentally, in the ensuing struggle, accidentally shoots himself. Could have been very interesting, very heartbreaking, if nothing else. And then it would have kind of put Victor in a very difficult situation. He's going to be in a difficult situation either way. I mean, his father tried to kill him. But if it would have ended that way with Henry dying, I think it would have affected him even more. But yeah, I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see what they're planning on doing with Henry in season 5. Because again, it seems like they do really like the actor. But I don't know. I guess we'll see. I didn't think he was going to survive this season. I'm with you, and a lot of you in the chat said very similar kind of predictions at the beginning of the season. A lot of people thought this was going to be the season where Henry died, myself included. But yeah, I don't see him surviving the entirety of season 5 though. He'll probably get killed off at some point. But we got Dark Lake for $2. Thank you so much, Dark Lake. Very much appreciate it, my friend. I think Boyd has to die in that well to beat this. Ooh, interesting. The well in particular. I like that. I mean, that's interesting. Would Boyd ever have to return to that well? Maybe. I don't know. I do think Boyd is going to die at some point, and probably towards the end of season 5, most likely. I have a feeling that's where his storyline is heading. This very heroic, noble death, or even a sacrifice in a sense, where his death helps facilitate getting everybody else out. I just always figured Boyd dying in a heroic way, saving everyone. But who knows? Maybe he'll survive. Maybe Boyd actually will make it all the way out. If anyone deserves to, after everything they've been through, it is characters like the Boyds and the Victors, the ones that have been through the most trauma in this place. So yeah, I don't know. I think the well thing is an interesting idea, but I don't know where he's going to die, but I definitely get the feeling Boyd's going to die towards the end of the series, and it will be a very meaningful death that hopefully helps everybody else get out. But we'll see. We shall see. But the well is interesting. And speaking about the well, one thing I know some people noticed, we were getting some comments about it, was there was, suspiciously no Martin in season 4. And, still to this day, for some reason, Martin has always remained a kind of a hot button issue within the From fandom, where so many people still really want to know just who Martin really was. Who is he? Where did he come from? How did he get in that dungeon? Was he really the Man in Yellow in disguise? Did the Man in Yellow lock him up in there? Was he a story walker, a previous resident? How did he get there? How does he know the things he knows, et cetera, et cetera? So there's just so much intrigue around the character of Martin that we see, in the comment sections all the time. And that was the one thing that I noticed. A lot of people were a little disappointed that they didn't get any Martin scenes the entire season. And I agree. I think Martin's been a pretty interesting fixture on the show since they first introduced him in season 2. They brought him back in season 3 for a very poignant and interesting scene where we, as the audience, got to finally see a little bit about Julie's story walking and how it works, and how she was really the one who threw the rope the entire time. That was a very awesome reveal, I thought. So yeah, it was a little disappointing that we didn't get any Martin in season 3. In season 4, I would have liked to finally get some kind of origin as to who he really is. Because I know it's a really popular question among the fandom. People really want to know about Martin still.
Yeah, and the answers that the creators were giving, they said stay tuned. So
Yeah.
they were asked about Martin, and they
We'll
plan
get
to do something. We're gonna get resolution for that one for sure. Um, I'll tell you what. For sure, I don't know what's gonna happen with Henry. I don't see a way out. It's gonna be super awkward. I mean, you tried to kill your son. He
yeah.
literally told you said he would take care of me. You're doing the opposite. It's gonna be weird.
Oh yeah.
They're definitely not gonna be roommates. I would not want to room with him. I mean, what if he gets it into his head that he wants to try to smother Victor?
Again, yeah.
I wouldn't trust
I'm
him, okay?
Victor,
He needs to kick him out.
if I'm Victor, the first thing I'm doing is marching that fucking twin bed right out of that fucking room the same way I marched it in. I don't care how much chaos it causes in the halls of Colony House. I'm getting that bunk bed right out of that fucking room.
Yeah.
Lickety
I mean, really. But it's like, what do you do? I mean, how do you move on from this, guys? What do you do? Like, how do you actually move on from this? At this point, I'm like, he should have died. That would have been a better ending. It's going to be awkward. There's so much going on that we don't have time for that. But how do you move on? He can't fall asleep. That Victor, he better not fall asleep around his dad. And yeah, it's going to be awkward asking him to move out.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it'll be a very interesting relationship between Victor and Henry in season 5. I mean, their relationship was always a little bit strained and was never really perfect. They haven't really ever gotten like super, super used to each other yet. And then you throw something like this in the mix. I think it's only just going to bring them both back to square one, where Victor's definitely not going to trust him. Henry's going to have to try and earn that trust back. And I don't know. I could definitely see it deteriorating up until the point where Henry eventually gets killed off, maybe. But I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you know, if Henry would have died in that scene, I think it would have been an interesting conclusion to his story arc, if nothing else.
Mhm.
Yeah, Henry's going to room with Patty. Provolone Patty melts.
Mhm. Hey, those two are perfect. And then
Hey.
let a monster get in there. Then that's it, guys. We have gotten rid of our main problem. It let them room together. They were kind of talking to each other. She offered him cookies and he took a cookie. So, yeah, maybe
He
they could
did.
room together.
Maybe. Patty Melt and good old Henry just chilling. 2-person team. Maybe. When did Julie stop story walking in season 4? It was right around midway through the season. You know, because she was pretty motivated towards the beginning of the season up until the point where she starts experimenting with this bookmark idea that she learns from Ethan's books. She successfully travels back to the time of the massacre in 1978, sees the man in yellow snacking on a freaking liver over in the corner of the street there, and tries to drop the bookmark and leave, but realizes it didn't work. Her idea for this bookmark thing just it wasn't successful. I mean, maybe that's because she got it out of a damn children's book. But it seems like from that point on, she slowly started to lose motivation. She slowly started to lose a little bit of hope. And then I think one episode later is when we get that scene between her and Randall in the clinic, where Sophia's kind of eavesdropping on Randall and Julie, and they're having this massive argument where Randall's telling her that she needs to stop doing this. She's risking too much. She's having seizures every time she does it. So it seemed like from that point on is when Julie just steadily stopped about the story walking and started to believe that, you know, this wasn't anything. She thought she could change things at one point. Now she just thinks it was all for nothing. So yeah, right around midway through the season is when she started kind of getting off the story walking wagon, which is unfortunate.
It is unfortunate, but then they didn't even talk to each other after that, remember?
Yeah.
They don't have any follow-up conversation because I kept looking for that conversation. Like, is she going to talk to Randall? Because they were making such a good team. That was such an interesting team.
Randall got no screen time this season, and that was a little disappointing. I mean, yeah, it started off pretty decent with him and Julie's story walking kind of storyline, but ever since that kind of teetered off, we still got Julie scenes throughout the rest of the season, but no Randall scenes. We barely saw Randall in the second half of season 4. And that's unfortunate. And again, I think a part of that does go into the whole, maybe there's just a little too many characters, just one too many characters on From, where not everybody can get screen time. And again, I feel bad for Bacta. I feel like that, this poor character got introduced at the very beginning of season 2 with all of the other people that arrived on the bus, and here we are 2 seasons later, and we still know absolutely nothing about Bacta. Nothing at all, other than she took over the diner. I thought it was heading into an interesting spot when they announced, or when we found out that she knew that nursery rhyme. I'm like, okay, she's got an interesting connection to this place now. This is something to explore. I can't wait to see where this goes. And it went nowhere again. And I think that's where some of the frustration, where, in some fans, comes from, with some of these smaller storylines kind of starting and then not finishing. But I don't know. We'll see. And I don't think Martin's going to be one of those. I definitely think we're going to get that answer for Martin, even before we got that kind of answer from the Reddit Q&A. I just always assumed we will get a true answer for Martin. We'll find out who he really is, why he's in that dungeon. Is he really the Man in Yellow in disguise? Was he locked up by the Man in Yellow? Is he a story walker? Is he this? Is he that? I always had the feeling we would get that answer. But it's nice to see that we do have that, confirmation that there is something coming on the Martin front in season 5. But yeah, it would have been nice to have some Martin in season 4. But again, there's a lot of characters and not a ton of screen time to kind of, divide out there. So kind of have to pick and choose.
But that's what I mean. I like that you said that, Jeremy, because there are a lot of characters, not enough screen time. So either more episodes and more seasons so that you can play around as much as you want, or don't give minutes and seconds to Patty, because every second matters. Don't give minutes and seconds to storylines that you're introducing without kind of wrapping up the other ones. For example, Elgin. Okay, he was gonna die. If you wrote out that he was gonna die, then use some of that Patty time to explain to us how come Elgin kept asking about a lake. He was like, "Is there a big body of water? I'm looking for a big body of water." They show him the Brundles, and he says, "No." Is there any other body of water? He never told us why. And he also knew about the rhyme, right? He also knew something else that he wasn't supposed to know. That he said somebody told them, like, "Oh, I was told this." They come for 3.
The nursery rhyme. The boy in white
never told us. Yeah, never told us, why. Why is the boy in white communicating with them? Well, at the same time, Kimono Lady was going to be his ultimate demise. And we know they're different now. So they could have, kind of wrapped that up. Why was he asking about a big body of water?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting to see where season 5 is going to take this. Again, we got one final season left, and there's quite a lot of storylines to wrap up. I am very intrigued to see how they're going to do it. Again, will they be able to? I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. Yeah, again, even if season 4 wasn't the best season, they still have delivered so much more good storytelling than bad storytelling, in my opinion, anyway. Season 4 kind of disappointments aside. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what season 5 is going to bring us. Will they be able to wrap everything up satisfactory? Again, like you said, PM, that really is up to you, the audience member, and what you are hoping to get out of the finale. What is a satisfying finale to you? Everybody's going to have a different definition of that. So yeah, I am very much looking forward to seeing what exactly is season 5 going to look like, and how is this story eventually, inevitably going to wrap up. We shall see.
Yeah, I don't need all of the answers. You don't need to wrap up every single thing. There's a big cast. There's a lot going on. I don't need everything, but I want it to feel like From. Did this feel like From to you? From has a very curated aesthetic and a very curated vibe. The way that they don't communicate, that's kind of part of the aesthetic. I know a lot of people want them to gather and speak to each other. They just don't. That's kind of part of From. This didn't feel like From to me. A lot of the time I was like, "Oh, this is a different show. This is the Sophia show." Sometimes it felt like From when I was hanging out with the main cast, and it kind of had the same vibe, like with Boyd. And then sometimes it was like, no, this does not feel. There's a contrast. Did it feel like From to you for the most part?
I mean, it for the most part, it kind of felt like From. I think when it comes to the finale, it felt like a really good episode of From. It didn't feel like a finale of From, a season finale of From, just because the season finales have usually always been like above and beyond some of the best stuff that they've ever done. This finale was okay. It wasn't bad. And like I said, I put up that poll earlier, asking the entire fandom, what did you guys think of season 4 now that it is, officially concluded? And I didn't want to just put, did you love it or did you hate it? Because I feel like, we as humans are far more nuanced than just being that black and white. We just are. We're far more kind of complicated than that. So I put up 3 different possibilities, 3 different options that everybody could choose from. Now that From season 4 is complete, what did you think about the season overall? Cast your vote below. And we have 26% of people said it was a great season. And that's awesome. I'm genuinely glad that a sizable portion really did think it was a great season. That is awesome. 11% said it was a bad season. And then 63%, overwhelming favorite, says it was okay, but not great. And that's kind of where I'm at as well. If I had to choose one of these 3 for me, I wouldn't say it was a great season. I wouldn't say it was a horrible season. It was okay, not great. That's kind of where I'm at as well. I feel like there were some really, really good moments, some really, really good scenes. They definitely gave us some answers. And I definitely don't agree that they didn't give us any answers as well. Like you said earlier, PM. We definitely got answers. I mean, a lot of the answers might have been, heavily fan theories that we kind of were expecting, but it's still definitive answers nonetheless, whether it's some of the Jade stuff or some of the talisman stuff or everything in between. We definitely got some decent answers. But I'm never worried about that. I'm never coming into a season of From worried about, are we going to get enough answers? For me, it's more about the character-driven narratives, the character storylines. And for me, that is where From kind of had some really, really good moments and some really, really bad moments. Like the Sophia storyline, again, I think it started off interesting. I just think it ran its course and it stretched out a little bit too long with this undercover thing lasting the whole season. I feel like it lasted too long. It started to feel stale after a while. And then, of course, there's some of the character regression kind of points we talked a little bit about. Certain characters, doing some things that seemed very uncharacteristic for who they were up until this point, like Sarah being so easily manipulated.
Yes.
So yeah, again, overall, I enjoyed the season. I think there was a lot of really great scenes, some really great episodes, but it also had some flaws as well. But I'm very much looking forward to season 5. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to be able to wrap all this up. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, of course. Me too. And listen, guys, on the following, we're going to continue to talk about From. And on the following, episodes of the From Hour, we're going to do fun things. We will do the trivia. We will do fun little things with what we have seen in the show. We will have theories and we're going to move on. However, the season just came out. We just watched the finale. It is time to give an honest opinion. Is it going to be a little bit negative? It has to be honest. It doesn't matter if it's, negative or positive or mostly negative or positive. It has to be an honest thing. It's not going to be all doom and gloom. Eventually, we're going to move on because it is what it is. But, you got to be honest. Right now, that's what you're going to see. If you're going to any channel that is honest, they're going to be telling you the truth, hopefully. And what I'm seeing from our colleagues is that they kind of are all in the same vibe. It was great, as an episode, but was it the finale? No, the vibe was off. The vibe was different. There was a contrast. It is what it is. It was okay, but it wasn't great. Now, for this season, for me, I'm going to rewatch it like we always do. There's going to be parts that I fast forward. There's going to be parts that I fast forward. I never do that. But there's going to be parts that now that I have seen everything are inconsequential to the storyline. And I'm going to fast forward through. I don't need to see Sophia acting sneaky when I already know, okay, Sophia, I get it. You're sneaky. You're doing little things. You're cutting the rope and nobody sees this, right? Nobody has eyes. You're smiling. You're smirking. I get it. I'm going to fast forward through that. And I'm going to focus on, the main cast. I don't usually do that. So that's how I feel. It was okay, but it wasn't great. I feel like I am sorting through the episodes to find little pieces that I think, oh, that was amazing. Victor's acting, different little parts of the season that I'm thinking that's great, but I'm sorting through it, where usually no. Usually every episode, every second, every minute is amazing. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, nothing. Again, all opinions are welcome here. That's one thing we have always said right from the beginning. Whether you love the show, whether you're not liking the show, we just want to hear your opinion and create a discussion around it. And that's what's fun. I mean, again, these discussions would never be fun if everybody just thought the exact same way and everybody just loved every single second that we saw. Those discussions are never fun. You don't learn anything that way, in my opinion. I like learning from other people's point of views, other people's perspectives, why they thought this scene really worked, why they didn't like this scene. It teaches me something new every time we do one of these streams about filmmaking, about storytelling, or just about life in general. So I always enjoy when we have discussions like this, that there is a decent kind of split where there are people that like an episode and there are people that maybe don't like an episode, but we always discuss it respectfully at the end of the day. Any criticism we levy is always only meant to be constructive, because anybody who knows us, we love the show. I've loved the show from the very beginning. I've championed it as well as I possibly could to the best of my ability, and will continue to do so going forward, because I love the show. I love the world. I love the characters. I love the intrigue. I love the monsters. Everything about this show is super intriguing. But every once in a while, there's going to be some storylines that you just don't like, and there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, overall, definitely looking forward to seeing season 5. How are they going to wrap all of this stuff up? What is the definitive answer going to be? What is the ending going to look like? Who's going to make it to the end? Who's not going to make it to the end? I feel like we should have a pretty explosive season 5, if nothing else, just considering how much they really need to wrap up and how little time they have to do it. I expect a very much, at the very least, a much faster pace than we got in season 4, for sure.
Mm-hmm. You never know. I can't make any promises as to what the pace is, or who, I had expectations because of what they told us to expect, but their delivery is different now. So we are the people, I have called them brilliant. Like, these people are brilliant, amazing. And it's just, it's about integrity at this point. Like, really, if you have integrity and it's not just about clicks and it's not just about views and it's not just about saying this is the most amazing show ever, then it's about being honest. And if they're gonna give people plot armor, who I do want to make it through? Boyd. I just feel like Boyd has been through so much, and I'm like, you know what? If you're going to keep people from dying because we love them, a big part of us love Boyd. Let him get out of there. Let him have his boat and his family and Ellis, and keep Fatima from becoming a monster. And I just want Boyd to make it out at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I would love for Boyd to survive. Like if I had a choice in the matter, yeah, I would love to see Boyd make it out. Everything that he's been through, everything that he's had to sacrifice, having to kill his own wife to save his son, and all the damage and trauma and psychological pain that has come along with that. If there's anyone that deserves a little bit of peace, it is Boyd. He's definitely up towards the top of that list, along with Victor, in my opinion. But yeah, I don't know. I do have a feeling Boyd is going to die in the end, and I think he'll die in a very heroic manner, saving everybody. But who knows? Who knows what we're going to get? I do think it'll be a much faster pace, but yeah, there's no way to tell 100%. But again, just given how much that they still need to wrap up, just by its nature, I imagine it's probably going to be a little faster paced. But we shall see. We shall see what season 5, the 5th and final season, is going to bring us. We got Katrina Marie for $9.99. Thank you so much, Katrina Marie. Very much appreciate you, my friend. Most information slash answers of any season. Best Victor scenes. Wish I saw more Kenny. Yeah, that is one thing I do agree with you with wholeheartedly. I feel like we just didn't get anywhere near enough Kenny and Randall. Kenny and Randall are the two characters I wish we could have seen a lot more of. 100%. The finale should have had a Man in Yellow reveal, a story walk, and an OG timeline shot as Tabitha held the skull. You are preaching to the choir, Katrina Marie. 100.
Yeah. I like that idea, Katrina Marie. I like the idea of the OG timeline shot because we did
the one
get a
thing I
little
wanted.
glimpse. We
That's
got
the
a little
one
glimpse of that when we saw the little Nkui girl laughing. That was one of the best parts for me. I like seeing the Nkui little girl in a different light where they humanized her.
Now, I was looking back at that scene because I thought that was a flashback to that original timeline as well. And then I looked a little bit closer. It looks like that was a flashback to when Tabitha sees the Nkui children just outside of the cave entrance when they're clawing and grabbing at her like that. I think it was a flashback to that she was seeing. I could be wrong, though.
I don't know because when they first see her, she's screaming at them and they're saying Nkui, Nkui. But in this one, she was just giggling and not speaking. And usually it was Nkui, Nkui. So if she had been saying Nkui, Nkui while doing that, then yeah. But this one, she was kind of just smiling at her and not speaking, just kind of playing with her. And there was no children to her side. And that was a big gaggle of children.
Yeah, I know. We didn't really get a great angle of it, though. It was kind of super kind of closed up just on that Nkui child's face as she was kind of clawing at Tabitha. And just seeing the state that she was in and the surrounding area, it did look a lot like the cave scene. Again, I could be wrong, but I think it was the cave scene. But either way, we definitely need a flashback to the original timeline, 100%. Someone in the chat actually asked that last week. They asked us if we could get one answer in the finale, what answer could we get? And we had similar ones in terms of both of those answers being tied to the original timeline. We want to see a flashback to the original settlers, how this deal got brought to them, why they decided to take this deal in the first place, what drove them to want immortality. There's just so much question surrounding that original timeline. And of course, it looks like we didn't even get the colonial woman creature that we were looking forward to getting from the season 4 casting information. So I wonder if that's maybe a character that they're just saving for season 5, or if it's a character that just was left on the cutting room floor and they didn't end up using it. Because I was hoping that the colonial woman was going to be maybe the original Tabitha. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like we got some pretty good information. We got some pretty good answers. I feel like the end of season 3 gave us more answers than we got in season 4, just personally. I mean, we got a pretty big information dump at the end of season 3 from Fatima, learning about the monsters, learning that they were human at one point, learning about the deal, about the Nkui children being their children, learning about Jade and Tabitha, who they really are, the reincarnations. I feel like the season 3 finale has been our biggest information dump. But we did get some good answers in season 4 too.
Oh, we got a ton. I feel like I totally agree with you, Katrina Marie. This is the most answers we've ever gotten, just straight up confirmation. And the creators Reddit post where they just answer questions, just telling us that Eloise was dead.
That was huge.
Just telling us that can help us focus, right? And direct our attention to what's on screen now that we are not trying to solve the mystery of Eloise. So I feel like we got a lot of answers in the show and in what they actually told their audience. I'm happy with the answers. people who say that they didn't get answers, I feel like we did.
We
Even
did.
the last
We did.
shot of Boy and White saying, "You're not gonna win this time," lets us know, okay, there is a
Confirms
game
more.
afoot.
Yeah,
Yes.
confirms even more that we were kind
Mhm.
of, that the whole fandom was kind of speculating this whole time with this man in yellow, boy in white rivalry, maybe this game that seems to be playing.
The
Yeah, no, again,
talismans mean
the
something. That
talismans, we got,
also, remember, that had been a question, like, for us for a
yeah,
long time, and they
who
told us,
created
"Yes, it
them?
means something."
Yeah, who
Mhm.
created the talismans? How do they work? All of that, and it looks like we're going to get even more answers surrounding the talismans in season 5 once we find out the definitive kind of translation of what those symbols are really referring to. But like you said, I think you're right. I think it's depicting the original ritual, the sacrifice. But yeah, I think we got some really good answers. It definitely was not a season where we didn't get answers. I don't think that was really the problem. For me, the problem was some more of the character-driven storylines, and things of those nature was, some of the problems I had with it. But in terms of getting answers, yeah, I was satisfied. I think we got some pretty decent answers
Mhm.
for sure. But yeah, a shot of the OG timeline would have been really cool. I feel like that would have been a very nice like cherry on top. I feel like, and that's one thing I would love to know what you guys think in the chat as well. You too, Pian. Seeing the finale in its entirety as its whole. If we would have gotten one more scene at the end of that episode, of a flashback of the original timeline, whether it's seeing the original deal go down, meeting the original settlers, some kind of original timeline, meeting the original Jade and Tabitha, even if it's just something as simple as seeing the original Jade and Tabitha for the first time. If we would have gotten a flashback to the OG timeline at the end of the season, would it have been a better finale for you?
Yeah, I like that idea.
Mhm.
And you know what? I didn't need much. I
Yeah.
don't think that the ending of the finale was like super bad. I
No.
just think if they would have made it the men in yellow so that we could have some
Yes.
symmetry, right?
Yes.
That's enough. You don't need to make it super exciting. But if we see this person that we have been seeing in paintings for a long time, I mean,
Right.
we didn't see a painting of Sophia.
No.
We saw a drawing that resembles Sophia, but this men in yellow painting has been huge, right? And there's drawings, multiple drawings. The painting, there's different depictions of him, old and young. So if they would have switched those two actors,
Mhm.
that's enough to make it like, oh wow, okay, I get it. Like this is what's going on. This is what we could expect. But I like the idea of seeing the original Jade and Tabitha.
Yeah, me
It
too.
didn't even have to be for long.
No.
The Men in Yellow was
Just
on
an
screen
intro.
for like seconds last
No.
time. So
No.
you could have given me 5 seconds of flash
Yeah.
and a black screen of the original family. And that's it. That's
You know
enough.
what would have been perfect? That it could have been literally a 10-second scene where we just get a quick little flashback where we get to see with our own eyes the original Jade and the original Tabitha as they're telling the story to the Unkui children. Just a little glimpse of that. That's it. That would have
Yeah.
been such a kick-ass way to end the season for us as the audience finally being able to travel to this moment, seeing what the original Jade and the original Tabitha look like, and hearing them tell this story to the Ankui children. We as the audience would have instantly recognized that and known, okay, this is the story that they poured all their hope into. I think that could have been an awesome way to end the show. Just that little one shot of Jade and Tabitha talking to the kids.
Yeah, and listen, I'm telling you, I'm super easy to like this show. I don't need much, okay?
Yeah.
I don't even need them to talk. Like that is how much of a vibe change that it would have done. I
Yeah.
don't even need Jade and Tabitha, the original people, to talk. You know how the little girl was like smiling and she was kind of playing at Tabitha's face? Imagine just the original Jade, the original Tabitha, with their little Ankui daughter playing that scene where she's like going at their face. Black screen, that's enough. That's like,
That's
whoa,
that's
that's
enough.
super exciting.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
And you wouldn't ruin the story. You're not spoiling anything. We can't tell anything. They don't even have dialogue. You already showed us the little Ankui girl smiling, have her smiling at them.
Yeah,
and that would have been completely fine for me,
definitely. 100%. Just a
But
little
this
strong.
is the other thing. And I'm gonna, like I said, we're gonna move on from this. We're gonna have amazing, trivia and fun. Um, but the finale just happened. So we're kind of, going over the finale.
We're still processing it. We're still
We're processing,
dissecting
dude.
it.
We're
I mean,
processing.
yeah,
Thank you,
you
Sunflower. I do feel better when I see that the chat that a lot of people are
yeah,
agreeing with us,
yeah, yeah. I like
because
that.
then it's like, okay, we're not broken, right? Our our meter here is not broken. It
Yeah.
seems like you guys kind of feel the same way. So I do like seeing that you guys have the same sentiment.
Well, I
Um,
mean,
we
it seems.
saw.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. We saw a lot of paintings of the man in yellow. I just
Mm.
want to go back to this point just very, very briefly.
Hmm.
We saw a lot of paintings of this dude. One is huge. They give us paintings, but his was huge, dude.
Yeah.
We didn't see any Sophia. Like I said, it was a little drawing and you couldn't even tell, okay? But other than that, if you look at that room that they kind of flashback constantly, because we did get a flashback of her going into that room looking at the paintings and Henry telling us the story, you don't see any character that matches the Sophia that we would
Yeah.
hang out with for a whole season with. We see
Hmm.
somebody that matches this dude that we saw for seconds, but nobody that matches Sophia. I understand. She explains that, you see, I couldn't come to them as I was because,
Yeah.
with her little villainous way, she explains it. But they didn't set her up. And I'm just wondering, was this always the plan that he becomes a little girl? Was he
Yeah.
always meant to become her?
Hmm.
Did you change that? Is that one of the changes that you made? That's something I would like to know. In the original script, does he become Sophia? Was that always the plan?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know. I mean, again, the way that the Man in Yellow was introduced at the end of season 3, I was very much looking forward to diving into this character at the beginning of season 4, and then to see this kind of curveball that we got with the Sophia storyline. I think it was a little jarring, kind of seeing the contrast, the difference between the two. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it was either way. If they always plan to do this, or if this is something that they just planned in between seasons 3 and 4. I could easily see either being the answer. But yeah, they won't
Mhm.
explain, and again, a lot of this stuff we'll probably never get answers to. Some stuff they'll answer once the series is over and it's done and season 5 is over. That's usually when creators start to open up a little bit more about, their ideas, what they did, why they did what they did, what they almost did, things they changed and stuff like that. Hopefully we'll learn some of that stuff after season 5 is over, but probably not before. But who knows? Who knows?
Mhm.
I mean, I think when it comes to some of these storylines, some of them at times do look like they were kind of maybe not thrown in last minute, but weren't a part of the original plan, the original outline of the show. And even when it
Mhm.
comes to Smiley coming back to life, the whole timeline of it was a little sus. But I don't know. I don't know. I like to think that they have the beginning, the middle, and the end already in mind. They know how they want to end the show. It's just a matter of getting there, getting from A to B, from B to C, from C to D. That is the stuff that they seem to be filling in along the way, but have an overarching idea of where they need to go. It's just how they get there seems to vary, I guess. And that is the
Yeah.
Gardner style of writing, the Gardner versus the architect, two very different styles of narrative writing. They are very much employing the Gardner style of writing, like George R. R. Martin does. Fill in as
Mm.
you go.
Well, I have watched the interview with the three of them, the three of them. And we have known since season 1 that John Griffin, he had a whole setup. So he seems like the architect style of writer. He had he said huge boards filled with information and details of his storyline. Now the other two, the other Jays, they work differently. Maybe this gardener style that you speak of. When they came together, it seems like he is getting phone calls, and he said this himself. They will call him and add and change things where they see fit. And so he wanted to stick to the beginning and stick to the end, make some changes, but stick to what he had for a beginning and end and play around with the middle. He said that for Patty, it was, experimenting and playing with the background, something they don't get to do. So this is where you see the experiments and the playing around didn't pay off. You had a winning formula. Maybe we could go back to the winning formula because they did have something that was solid. And they themselves told us if this is different, it's because we did do something different. In the Q&As, they answered these questions. They did do different things. So I think it's three people coming together and having different styles. And maybe that's what we're seeing. We're seeing the process, right, of compromise.
Maybe. You never know. Yeah, you never. When it comes to the creative process, there are some directors that really want to be heavily involved in the creative process, and they want to help kind of, provide, to the script, add to the script. Some directors just take the script and direct what they get. So it really is a matter of what kind of creative personality do you have, and what kind of dynamic, I guess, does John Griffin, Jeff Pickner, and Jack Bender have? What is their creative dynamic together? I don't know. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Most studios, especially when they're investing money into a show, into multiple seasons, sometimes studios do kind of at least offer suggestions of which things that they want to see on the show. Studios have involved themselves in the creative process from the beginning of time, since the beginning of television. I'm not saying that's what happened here. I have no idea what happened here. It seems like, for the most part, when I see John Griffin's style, it seems like he kind of had the beginning, the middle, and the ending kind of already clad up, and he was kind of loosely filling in along the way. But it could have been the opposite way. Maybe he did have a more definitive plan at the beginning, and it kind of slightly changed along the way. That could be possible too. But yeah, I don't know. When I see some of his writing, it reads to me as that kind of gardening style. But is that, his style of writing? Is that other creative influences coming together, and this is how the writing kind of turns out when you have three creative people kind of pouring their thoughts into it? I don't know. I don't know how their collaborative effort works. I don't know how they work together. But yeah, I don't know. I think, again, I think they have the beginning, middle, and the end pretty much sewn up, and they're filling it in as they go, the in-between. But whether or not that was the original plan, who knows? Who knows? But yeah, I don't know. I think, season 4 definitely had its highs, definitely had its lows. But overall, I am intrigued to see where we're going to go in season 5. I think there are still some really interesting opportunities in directions that they could take for season 5 for some of these characters. And at this point, I kind of just want to see how it's going to end. We've invested all these years into the show, which we love the show, love the fandom. I mean, the From fandom has been so fucking awesome doing these streams, whether it's here, talking in the Discord, wherever we kind of congregate. It's been so fun covering this season and discussing it with each and every one of you guys. Probably the most fun I've ever had covering the show, even if it wasn't my favorite season. Yeah, cannot wait to see just how this story is eventually going to end.
Yeah, super exciting. I mean, I'm excited because they started already. They're saying they're taking flights to start filming. So I'm like, oh my God. And Boyd, the actor that played Boyd, he was on vacation, and he said they're going to take a flight and he's going to start wardrobe, all of this stuff. So that's exciting. It seems like they're moving faster than usual. But I like what Robert here. He usually has really good info, and he's confirming that Bender has the final say-so on the scripts. Robert, how did you like the finale? Because Robert, he pays attention to every single detail. And we have not had an opportunity to ask you, how did you like the finale?
Yeah, let us know, Robert. And when it comes to Jack Bender, I think, Jack Bender is the type of director where he is a super creative person. He likes being involved in the creative process. And some directors, when they draw up their contracts for long running series like this, they will sometimes have a stipulation in their contract where they do have a certain degree of creative control. I don't know if that's what happened here. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what happened here. But some directors like to have that in their contract so they can have some say on certain scenes, or if they want to veto something, essentially. But yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. It seems like they all like being involved in the creative process, and it's worked. For the most part, their creative process has worked brilliantly. But yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see how they're going to be able to wrap this final scene up. Got referred by Lord Ravener and loving your show so far. Oh well, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Yeah, Lord Ravener is our other co-host here on the channel. You can catch Ravener and I usually every Thursday night. I'm sure he and I will be diving into the finale this Thursday again as well. But yeah, awesome. Appreciate that. Lord Ravener has been awesome this year. He's been hosting all the watch parties in the Discord for us. So if anyone has been partaking in our From watch parties every week, we have Ravener to thank for that. He's been the one that's been hosting it in there. So yeah, Ravener's a great guy. We got some awesome co-hosts here, people that I will be friends with for the rest of my days. Absolutely.
Yeah, and he's hilarious.
Ravener's funny.
So he's so funny. I love his laugh. He's like this tough voice, right? Has a very tough voice, but he has this little laugh. That's something I really like. But
yeah, Ravener's good people.
Listen, as long as they don't Game of Thrones us, do whatever you want. At this point, it's like give me whatever answers you want. Don't let this be Game of Thrones, please. Do not. I guess maybe we're a little shy, having been through a couple of experiences with shows that were amazing. Maybe we're a little hesitant, right? And that's okay.
Maybe. I'm looking forward to it. I want to see how this thing's going to end. I feel like the show has been such an intriguing part of my life for the last 4 or 5 years now, really, in terms of, even building a business around covering the show here on the channel, which I'm super freaking grateful for. So yeah, at this point, after all the time, after, seeing these characters go on such, a long journey, such an arduous journey, at this point, I just really want to see how it's going to end. How is it going to end overall, the main plot, the main overall narrative, and how is it going to end for these individual character storylines? So that's what I want to see. How is it ultimately going to end? What happened on Game of Thrones? I never watched it. Game of Thrones started off as the best show in the history of television for like the first 3 or 4 seasons or so. Season 5 and 6 and 7, you start to see like a little bit of a decline each season where it started to get a little worse in quality, because at that point they had kind of surpassed the source material. The books that it was based on, the book series that it is based on rather, isn't finished yet. Only 5 of the 7 books are out. So they were able to adapt the first 5 books decently enough for like the first 4 seasons or so. But then they ran out of source material, and then they had to kind of just wing it with just vague bullet points that they got from the original author. And from that point on, you slowly started to see a real decline in the quality of storytelling for Game of Thrones, especially in the final 2 seasons, to the point where if you ask most diehard Game of Thrones fans about the ending of Game of Thrones, they're still traumatized about it. Still to this day, it's been 10 years since that show has ended. Since that show has started, excuse me, well over 10 years. And people are still just heartbroken over how it ended, because Game of Thrones ended, it did end really poorly. Character motivations all of a sudden just got thrown out the window. Character regression for just about every character that had really good redemptive arcs just completely regressed and turned into their like just asshole selves out of nowhere. There were so many just last minute twists and turns, and every single one of them was bad. So yeah, Game of Thrones is very notorious in pop culture for being one of those shows that just started off so freaking good, but then crashed and burned at the end.
Are you traumatized, Jeremy?
I'm not. No, I look back on Game of Thrones with fondness still to this day. Even though I didn't really enjoy the ending, there were aspects of the ending that I actually did enjoy, like Jon Snow's storyline, his arc. I actually really enjoyed. I thought it was perfect from start to finish. I think at the end of the series, Jon was never meant to sit on the Iron Throne. He was never meant to become king. That's not who Jon Snow is. Jon Snow belongs north of the Wall. So I was actually very satisfied with that part of that storyline. I think Jon going north at the end of the show perfectly fit his temperament and what he wanted. Jon had never been happier a day in his life more than he was when he was north of the Wall with Ygritte. So I thought Jon Snow had a really good ending, but a lot of the other characters had just really, really bad endings. And then, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Some storylines are good, some are really bad. But if you ask a lot of people, they loved Game of Thrones for a while, and then the ending disappointed a lot of people.
Mhm. Jeremy's so nice, you guys. Jeremy really is the person that you hear and that you see here. He is so non-confrontational. He is the nicest person ever. So, like, I have a hard time getting him to say anything negative about anything. So when he says something negative, it's because it's
It was
really,
bad.
really negative.
It was bad. Again, the ending of Game of Thrones was very disappointing. Again, certain storylines ended pretty well. Ser Jorah, he had a really great ending. Dying, saving Daenerys, defending Daenerys. That's all. That's how he was meant to go. Theon Greyjoy had a really good redemption arc. All the nasty shit that Theon did earlier on in the series, for him to kind of come full circle, and for his story to start in Winterfell and then end in Winterfell with him defending Bran Stark, when the beginning of his story started with him threatening the life of Bran Stark. So I feel like there was a good redemption arc for a lot of these characters. Theon's story ended really good. Jorah's story ended really good. Jon's story ended really good. But then there were some others that just didn't end really good. Jamie's story and Jamie and Cersei's storyline ended horribly. Tyrion's storyline ended horribly. Arya's storyline I wasn't really a big fan of. It was hit and miss in terms of the individual character arcs, but overall the series was widely loved, and then a really big disappointment at the end for most of Game of Thrones fans, but not all. I do want to stress that there is a decent portion of the fandom that actually really loved the final season of Game of Thrones and how it ended. But it seems like the vast majority of people didn't like it. And I think a lot of it does come down to Daenerys. Daenerys was this larger-than-life character. Everybody loved Daenerys. And to see her just go full-on villain in the final season when she was meant to be the main hero of the story, I think the way they did that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. But yeah, started off good, ended not so good. Long story short.
Yeah, I mean, one last question. I know that we're gonna call it really soon, but one last question. Let's start having fun, right? It's like, it is what it is, right? Stoicism, guys. Strength, courage, and stoicism. We must move on from this. Fun question, Mr. Jeremy Eisenfire. Do you want, now that Christy and Kenny are, I mean, poor little Mariel. I feel bad even asking the question, but do you think that Christy is going to go back to doing what she was doing to Kenny, where she kind of gives him hope?
Maybe. Honestly, I mean, I guess a small part of me wouldn't really be too surprised if they killed off Mariel in the season before the last, just so they could pair Kenny and Christy in the final season.
And do you think they did it for the fans, because the fans felt bad for Kenny?
I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe
do
it's
you
just
want them together?
more,
Do you want to see them together, Jeremy?
I don't really care, honestly. Whether they get together or not, I could really care less about that. I don't know. I just was never a big fan of the Kenny Christy kind of thing. I feel like all she really did was kind of lead the guy on a little too much. But no, I don't know. I don't know. Part of me feels like the final season or at least I'm hoping anyway, that the final season is going to be, so intense and so hectic that characters aren't even going to have time for romantic entanglements like that. I mean, maybe if they're sensing that the end is near and you want to spend the last few minutes you have with someone you care about, maybe in that sense. But I don't know. Part of me wouldn't be surprised, or part of me does hope that season 5 is going to be so intense that there's not going to be time for stuff like that.
Yeah, it's just that, you can't help but think and wonder
can't help
why
but
they
wonder.
kill Mariel.
Exactly.
Like, why Mariel and not Henry, not Bagda? Why Mariel? It almost seems
Yeah.
like too
If
convenient,
they're
right?
if they're clearing the way, like again, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they did kill Marielle for that specific reason, to clear the way for her and Kenny. It's possible.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to see them together. I
I
think
don't.
it would be a big setback for the character that they have written out as Kenny.
Yeah.
Remember when she tried to do the same thing that she does about leading him on over at Cannibal Village when they were picking vegetables,
He
he
finally
grew.
gets
He
hit to it.
finally grew as a person.
Yeah.
And he said, listen, pick the vegetables, okay? Stop talking to me about,
Stop
I'm always
talking.
gonna love you.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm always gonna love you. You're always gonna have somebody here who loves you. And he's like, pick the damn vegetables, girl. Stop it, right? So he grew as a person. I was like, okay, good, Kenny, you are growing. You are, that shows emotional growth. That
Mhm.
things
Oh,
were
yeah.
not clear and that he's strong and he doesn't need that in his life, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I think
There's
putting them back together would be a setback for Kenny.
Yeah, yeah, it might be, maybe. I mean, yeah, Kenny has kind of grown a lot since then, and you kind of always got that sense that there will always be a part of Kenny that loves Christy. But after everything that's happened, after the way it's all played out, yeah, I don't know if you could kind of see them together. I mean, maybe, but I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing season 5 and where this is ultimately going to go. How will this crazy show end? Game of Thrones, Dark, Breaking Bad are amazing shows, but I personally loved From the most, says God of Faith. Every single one of those shows are definitely amazing. Breaking Bad was great. Dark was great. Really, really good shows. Yeah, Breaking Bad had a pretty good ending. Dark had a pretty good ending as well. I mean, there are a lot of shows out there that had really, really good endings. Prison Break, I think Prison Break was okay. I think the ending of Prison Break wasn't bad. Definitely not bad. Banshee, I think Banshee had a phenomenal ending. If anyone has seen the show Banshee, it was on Cinemax back in the day. Just one of the most intriguing shows I've ever seen in my life. This story of Lucas Hood and this journey that he goes on from ex-convict to felon to small-town sheriff to everything else that he does. Banshee was one of the more intriguing series and just incredibly well written. That had just a phenomenal final season. If anyone hasn't seen Banshee and you like action shows, definitely check it out. But no, there's a lot of good shows out there that really had just phenomenal endings that really did stick the landing. There's a lot of them. There's definitely a lot. But yeah, I don't know. I guess we shall see, folks. We shall see where the rest of From season 5 is going to take us. How is this story going to end? Who is going to make it? Who is not going to make it? And will our characters ultimately make it out of Fromville, or are they doomed to just be another failed cycle in a very long line of failed cycles? That is what I want to see. But yeah, awesome stuff, guys. Awesome stuff. Yeah, Midnight Mass was good. I think it was an interesting ending, but not bad. Yeah, not bad. I think the 3-part Dracula series that they did on Netflix a few years ago, I actually really enjoyed that. I thought that was actually really fucking well done. Even the actor that they had to play Dracula was just fucking perfect for the fucking role. So yeah, there's a lot of really good shows out there that had perfect beginnings and perfect endings, like The Twilight Zone. like our Twilight Zone. But yeah, that is going to do it for us tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I want to give a big thank you to each and every one of you for hanging out with us on this fine evening. And of course, we will continue to break down from season 4, the finale, the first episode, and everything in between. And of course, continue to heavily theorize and give our predictions as to where season 5 is going to take us. But a big thank you to all of you. And of course, if you guys have not subscribed to PM's channel, head over there, give her a sub, check out some of her content, and leave a like after you are done. And until next time, stay safe out there, ladies and gents. Keep those tinfoil hats on, folks, and I will see you on the next one. Cheers.
Okay, ding dongs. If you don't subscribe to Jeremy Ice and Fire, you're gonna spend the night in the box.
Aunt Cooey.